Chapter 1339. When the mighty dragon roar resounded across the land, the golden dragon's enormous body leapt out from the endless void. Its large golden eyes swept across everyone present with disdain. Anyone who saw those eyes would feel fear in their hearts. Even Origin venerates felt their hearts tremble. This is the dragon race? Why has the dragon race appeared here? The expressions of several Origin venerates immediately changed when they saw the dazzling golden dragon leap out from the endless void. Graveness involuntarily flowed out from the depths of their eyes. The dragon race was above all other beasts and was the supreme powerhouse of the demonic beast world. They rarely interacted with humans. Although the golden dragon before them only had the cultivation of a source ancestor, everyone present would have to face the wrath of the entire dragon race if they angered it. Even the Ghost Temple sect and the Cloud Immortal sect would not be able to withstand such fury, let alone the other two sects present. However, what made them feel strange was why a member of the dragon race would suddenly appear here for no reason. At the same time, Xiao Yan, who was below everyone, had a pair of new red eyes as he raised his head to look at the huge golden-colored dragon in the sky with surprise. Although its body and appearance had changed slightly, that familiar aura still caused him to feel a sense of familiarity. This kind of familiar warmth caused Xiao Yan's emotions to be slightly soothed from the little fairy doctor's hatred and grief. When the human and dragon's gazes came into contact with each other, the emotions deep within their hearts were once again moved. Asterisk rumble, asterisk thunder rumbled continuously in the sky as the enormous golden dragon, surrounded by bursts of golden lightning, gradually transformed into a handsome young man with golden hair. Although his appearance was rather mature, there was a hint of immaturity in his eyes. Countless people stared blankly at the scene in the sky, their hearts filled with both fear and curiosity. While everyone's attention was focused on Xiao Jin, the latter's body suddenly trembled. Without causing any spatial fluctuations, he appeared in front of Xiao Yan in the blink of an eye. This shocking scene caused the expressions of the several source venerables in the sky to change drastically. In their eyes, even an expert of the same level as them would not be able to move without causing the slightest fluctuation in space. However, the Dragon Clan youth in front of them had done it so casually. It was truly terrifying. When everyone's gazes once again looked at Xiao Jin, only then did they discover that a young man wearing a golden robe had unknowingly appeared beside Xiao Yan and Xiao Jin. At this moment, the latter was grabbing Gui Luo's throat with one hand and easily kicking the latter's body into the air. Hall Chief Xiao, on the other hand, had been forcefully shattered into nothingness by the thunderbolt explosion earlier. A powerhouse from the dragon race. Gui Xing's heart sank when he saw the young man in golden robes. Even with his usual calm temperament, he could not help but change his expression when he saw this young man. There was no need to doubt the strength of the dragon tribe. Once they appeared, even the Ghost Slaughter Gate would have to withdraw. Moreover, from the looks of the current situation, it was obvious that these two people had come for Xiao Yan. This time around, all of his preparations had been turned into nothing. On the other side, Huozhu could not help but feel surprised when he saw this scene. However, what made him feel even more fortunate was that these two people from the dragon race were clearly standing on Xiao Yan's side. This also meant that the Ghost Slaughter sect was destined to not be able to take away Xiao Yan today. On the side of Heavenly Cloud Villa, the 7 heroes of the Luo clan, Luo Cheng and the other Luo clan experts all looked at Xiao Yan, Xiao Jin and the others below in shock. They had never imagined that Xiao Yan would be in contact with a member of the dragon race. After all, the latter had only just entered the central region. If the appearance of the Cloud Immortal sect's first elder was because of the Ghost Slaughter sect, then the dragon race was undoubtedly targeting Xiao Yan himself. What kind of person was this to be able to cause the dragon race to be moved? Little fellow, I haven't seen you for many years. You've grown up. Xiao Yan involuntarily let out a praise as he looked at the unrecognizable Xiao Jin in front of him. He was naturally able to tell that Xiao Jin's current cultivation had stepped into the Source Zone class. This kind of cultivation was much stronger than his own. If it was not because of the familiar aura being emitted from the little fellow's body, it was likely that Xiao Yan would not dare to recognize him. Heh heh, big brother Xiao Yan, I'm not late, am I? Xiao Jin smiled in embarrassment when he heard this. He gently scratched his head and said. Xiao Yan's expression could not help but be startled when he heard these words. His mood, which had just recovered, immediately became much gloomier. When he thought of the little fairy doctor, a killing intent rose in Xiao Yan's heart. Looking at Xiao Jin in front of him, Xiao Yan clenched his fists and calmed the emotions in his heart. He slowly shook his head and said, You're not late. I'm the one who's late. Bitterness involuntarily flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes when he said these words. Although he had long understood the little fairy doctor's feelings, he was still hesitating and struggling. Only today did the little fairy doctor's death cause him to feel regret in his heart. However, all of this was already too late. Xiao Jin involuntarily frowned when he saw Xiao Yan's expression become gloomy. He turned his head to look at Long Lin by the side. The latter frowned slightly as if he had also noticed something. Two friends from the dragon race, today's matter is a grudge between my Daoist sect and the Heavenly Cloud Villa. As members of the dragon race, it does not seem appropriate for the two of you to interfere. At this moment, Wu Du's somewhat low and deep voice was suddenly transmitted. Although he saw the two members of the dragon race walk to Xiao Yan's side, Wu Du was unable to remain silent and wait for a meaningless judgment. As a origin venerate, he naturally had his pride, even if the other party was from the dragon race. Then what do you want? Upon hearing this, Xiao Jin turned his gaze towards Wu Du in the sky and asked with a faint smile. The latter's emotions immediately relaxed when he saw that Xiao Jin had no intention of refuting. He parted his mouth and smiled. If Xiao Yan is a friend of the two of you, this sect master can let bygones be bygones on account of the two of you. However, he abducted the holy maiden of my Daoist sect. This person must be returned. When these words were spoken, the surrounding people immediately sneered in their hearts. The other party had merely given them a good attitude. This fellow actually believed that there was still room for negotiation. The dragon race had always been arrogant and overbearing. No one had ever been able to negotiate with them. Wu Du was no exception. Xiao Yan's expression was indifferent when he heard Wu Du's words. Xiao Jin could not help but chuckle softly. A mocking expression was revealed in his golden eyes. Regardless of whether Wu Du's words were true or not, even if they were true, as long as Xiao Yan dared to do it, he would unconditionally support him. If you want someone, you can. When these words were spoken, Wu Du's eyes immediately brightened in the sky. At the same time, Long Lin, who was beside Xiao Jin, frowned. Soon after, he seemed to have thought of something. His expression was blank as he instantly looked towards Xiao Jin, only to see the latter pointing at him with a mocking expression. As long as you can beat him, you can choose anyone here. Chapter 1340. Heh, you brat. You dare to use me as a fighter? Long Lin could not help but chide Xiao Jin when he saw that Xiao Jin had actually pushed him out. The former curled his lips and spoke in a somewhat arrogant manner. Before I left, clan leader asked you to protect me. If you are unwilling to fight him, I can only do it myself. Upon hearing this, Long Lin helplessly smiled bitterly. Soon after, he casually threw away the half-dead Gue Luo in his hand. After which, he took a step forward. As his expression turned serious, a terrifying aura that far exceeded everyone present suddenly swept out from his body. At this moment, even the sky above Heavenly Cloud Villa changed color. Waves of wind and lightning surged, causing even the air to become much more moist. At this moment, the few source venerates in the sky all had extremely grave expressions as they looked at the former. It was likely that even if the few source venerates present joined forces and the 7 heroes of the Luo clan, they would not be able to withstand such a powerful aura and pressure. From this, one could see just how powerful Long Lin was. Since you want someone, we will do as this little fellow says. As long as you can defeat me, or at least defeat me once, you can choose anyone here. In the sky, Long Lin's body slowly moved until he was level with Wu Du. His calm words were filled with arrogance. This point completely revealed the arrogance of the members of the dragon tribe. However, at this moment, when Wu Du heard these words, the corner of his eyes involuntarily twitched. Such mocking words were looking down on him too much. But then again, he had personally witnessed Long Lin casually tossing Gue Luo away. In terms of strength, Gue Luo was not inferior to him in the slightest. In fact, Gue Luo was even slightly stronger. If they were to truly fight, Wu Du might not be a match for Gue Luo. Fortunately, when facing Long Lin, he only needed to defeat Gue Luo once. As a member of the dragon tribe, your words should be powerful and resonant, right? After musing for a moment, a thought passed through Wu Du's mind. He coldly said as he faced the powerful pressure that was being emitted from Long Lin's body. You don't have to provoke me. The people of the dragon tribe are always willing to throw out 1,000 gold coins. Don't talk about defeating me. As long as you can defeat me for one round, my words will count. Long Lin let out an icy chuckle. He clenched his right hand and gathered the surrounding Genesis Chi in his palm. This method surprised the other several origin venerates present. Although they could also control the unrefined power of the world without exhausting his own power, they could not do it as easily as Long Lin, let alone gather such powerful energy. From this point alone, one could tell that Long Lin was much stronger than them. This guy isn't an ordinary source venerate. Wu Du's heart sank when he saw this. He did not dare to be careless. Genesis Chi frantically surged out from his body as purple-black Great Dao power gathered around him. Myriad Poison Great Dao. The purple-black poison fog swiftly agglomerated into clusters of strange tents around Poison Wu's body. The latter looked at the few tents in front of him and hesitated for a moment. Only then did he clench his teeth. His body moved and directly passed through one of them. Bzz. When his body passed through the Great Way tent, his body seemed to have been smeared with a layer of purplish-black poison. A frightening aura immediately spread out from within Wu Du's body. At the same time, waves of poison gas that was even more frightening than an ordinary poison fog rapidly spread out. When the poison gas came into contact with the Great Star Plate formation, the frightening energy between the two was immediately exhausted. Under the corrosion of the poison gas, even the light on the Great Star Plate formation became slightly dimmer. When one looked at the city wall below, although it was protected by the symbols, a corner of it was still melting at a speed visible to the naked eye under the potent poison. HSS, what a terrifying poison! The expressions of everyone in the city below involuntarily changed when they saw this scene. This poison gas was really a little too frightening. It was actually able to melt even the city walls, which were protected by symbols. At this moment, Long Lin was also frowning tightly as he watched the scene in front of him. With his powerful cultivation, the poison gas might not be able to get within 100 feet of him, but the terror of this poison still caused him to feel some fear in his heart. Myriad Poison Great Dao. Legend has it that the founder of the Crossing Adversity sect mastered the Myriad Poison Great Dao. The Myriad Poison Great Dao is so terrifying that even Genesis Saint experts can't do anything to it. However, there is a prerequisite for this Great Dao power: the one who comprehended it must have the woeful poison body. Otherwise, they won't be able to withstand the pain of the Myriad Poison Great Dao. You don't have the woeful poison body, so how can you control the Myriad Poison Great Dao? Long Lin could naturally tell that Wu Du didn't have the woeful poison body, but if that was the case, how could he display the Myriad Poison Great Dao? Ha ha ha, the members of the Dragon Clan are indeed knowledgeable. You even know the Myriad Poison Great Dao so well. You're right, I don't have the woeful poison body, but I do have a fake one. When I become a true woeful poison body one day, I, Wu Du, will become the second Yi Shengdu. At the same time the wild laughter sounded, for veils had already pierced through Wu Du's body. At this moment, his body had already turned purplish black. Even the hair on his body had withered and fallen off as a result. His skin and flesh had shrunk and caved in, making him look like a mummy. His eyes had also turned purplish black. His fingers were thin and pitch black, and his fingernails were sharp and long. Purplish black poisonous gas covered them, and they emitted waves of disgusting aura. In the blink of an eye, Wudu seemed to have turned into a monster. As he stared at Long Lin, all his emotions were thrown to the back of his mind. There was only one thought in Wudu's mind, and that was to kill Long Lin. Disdain surged in Long Lin's eyes as he gazed at Wudu, who was neither human nor ghost. The power of the myriad poison Great Tao lay in its ability to continuously stack terrifying poisons on one's body. All the poisons would converge into one's body, and after some condensation, they would completely fuse with one's Genesis Chi, allowing one to erupt with power several times stronger than usual. However, because Wudu didn't have the woeful poison body, he had relied on some special means to condense the power of the myriad poison Great Tao outside his body and use it to strengthen his Genesis Chi. Although this would also achieve considerable results, one could tell from Wudu's current appearance that such a method would come at an extremely painful price. Wudu was simply digging his own grave. Chapter 1341. Other than Wudu and Long Lin, everyone else in the sky above Heavenly Cloud Manor had retreated over 1,000 feet away. The 7 heroes of the Luo clan defended the formation, while Luo Qing led a group of elders and landed in the city. Gue Xing also retreated by himself, taking the opportunity to pick up Gue Luan. He could not help but curse in his heart when he saw the latter's miserable appearance. However, he was also extremely helpless. If the 2 members of the Dragon clan had not intervened, Xiao Yan would have long become meat on their chopping block. How would he have ended up in such a state? In the battle between Wudu and Long Lin, although it seemed that Long Lin had some tricks up his sleeve, Wudu did not possess the true woeful poison body. It was difficult for him to unleash the full power of the 10,000 poison Great Tao. Naturally, one could imagine the outcome in front of this expert from the Dragon clan. If it were not for Long Lin's words earlier, Wudu would not have had the guts to compete with him. Forget it. Regardless of whether it is true or not, you do have some semblance. Today, let me see just how much power this 10,000 poison Great Path, which was once renowned across the continent, can display in your hands. Long Lin curled his lips and smiled when he saw Wudu's strange figure. He slowly raised his right hand and extended it towards the former, making an inviting gesture as he said, "Please. Buzz." The instant Long Lin's word sounded, a frightening pressure that was several times stronger than before suddenly swept out from within Wudu's body. At the same time, waves of dense black smoke-like poison fog spread outwards. Even the few origin venerates outside the arena could not help but be slightly moved by this frightening poison fog. With a thought from Wudu, the poison fog that lingered around him immediately gathered. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into over 100 pitch-black poisonous snakes. Under the control of his mind, they shot towards Long Lin in the blink of an eye. Hundreds of venomous snakes passed through the void in the blink of an eye like pitch-black lightning bolts. In the next moment, they appeared in front of Long Lin, twisting and twisting as they viciously bit at the latter's vital points. Long Lin's expression did not change in the slightest in the face of this. His gaze was indifferent as he looked at those poisonous snakes that were less than a meter away from his body. Only then did he slowly take half a step back. At the same time that he withdrew his right hand that was extended forward, his fingertip gently tapped a few spots in the empty space. Circle after circle of invisible spatial ripples immediately spread out above the empty space. A layer of solid barrier appeared in front of Long Lin in this understated manner. Bang 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 bang. Wudu's sharp attacks were easily blocked as the poisonous snakes collided with the invisible barrier. Outside the battle circle, Huazhu and the others couldn't help but smack their lips when they saw Long Lin's move, their eyes filled with envy. He is indeed worthy of being a member of the dragon tribe. His control over spatial strength has truly reached perfection. Just this alone is something that I am unable to do as easily as him. Haha, don't tell me that your 10,000 poison great Dao only has this much strength. Isn't this a little too embarrassing? Long Lin clenched his right hand in the air. The empty space in front of him immediately became distorted and burst apart. Even the last remaining portion of the poisonous snakes were squeezed and shattered. Wu Du's face involuntarily turned slightly green when he heard this. A cold snort was emitted from his nose. Immediately, his feet violently stomped on the empty space and his body immediately rushed forward. The 5 fingers of his hands were spread open and a suction force surged from his palms. Immediately, the shattered poisonous snakes gathered once again. They entangled with each other and formed 2 extremely large pitch-black long spears that were suffused with a cold glint. Go! With a low cry, the enormous black long spears, which were entwined by a dense black poisonous fog, rushed forward one after the other at lightning speed. After which, they disappeared in a flash. When the black long spears disappeared, the expression in Long Lin's eyes hardened slightly. He slowly raised his right hand and extended his index finger. He gently tapped the empty space in front of him. Immediately, as spatial fluctuation spread out, a huge long spear also appeared. His 5 fingers rotated and clenched in the air. A terrifying spatial strength appeared at the same time. Like countless steel blades, it ruthlessly smashed against the long spear and actually shattered it. Chi! Suddenly, the sound of rushing air was once again transmitted over. However, Long Lin seemed to have already anticipated it. The corners of his mouth were lifted into a cold smile as he tilted his head slightly to one side. Soon after, another enormous long spear suddenly broke through the empty space beside him and brushed past Long Lin's left cheek. In the next instant, Wu Du's figure closely followed. He arrived in front of Long Lin with a sinister look on his face. The 5 fingers of his right hand curled into a claw and viciously slashed at Long Lin's chest. Sharp sonic booms rang out as the 5 fingers tore through the air. Even though there was a distance between them, the fierce wind was still enough to make one's heart skip a beat. Swish! At practically the same time as Wu Du appeared, Long Lin's right hand abruptly reached out and grabbed the huge long spear that was about to brush past him. Then, as the 5 fingers descended, the long spear in Long Lin's hand was viciously swung towards Wu Du's head. Wu Du's heart was greatly alarmed when he saw this scene. His charging body forcefully turned around, and soon after, he felt a cold wind sweep past his head. At the same time, the hand claw that he had swung forward was easily dodged by Long Lin. "Huh, try and take my palm." Before Wu Du could catch his breath, Long Lin's figure instantly rushed over. With a flip of his right hand, Genesis Chi whizzed out from his palm, shattering the space below. Then, Long Lin laughed heartily as his palm ruthlessly blasted towards Wu Du. The surrounding space violently churned like the surface of a lake with a boulder thrown into it. Wu Du's expression changed again. As his figure rapidly retreated, poison immediately gathered in his palm. The Genesis Chi in his body did not dare to be the slightest bit negligent as it gushed out. Great Dao skill, 10,000 poison palm. Black poison gas gathered in Wu Du's palm in a lightning-like manner. In the next instant, a thick layer of black viscous energy swiftly gathered on his palm. At a glance, it appeared a little similar to mud. However, the strength contained within it was sufficient to cause one to tremble in fear. As the black poison palm rapidly formed, Wu Du immediately rushed forward and ruthlessly thrust it forward. In the next instant, he appeared in front of Long Lin's palm, and the two collided. The moment the two of them collided, the void and poisonous fog around the two of them suddenly became violent. The black poisonous fog churned violently and the invisible void cracked open. The vast energy between the two palms also poured out at this moment and collided violently. Boom! Under the attentive gazes of countless people, a thunder-like explosion immediately resounded across the horizon. A terrifying energy storm spread out from the horizon, and pitch-black cracks that were nearly 100 meters long quietly appeared like ravines in the sky. Such a scene was like a ferocious mouth that had suddenly split open in the sky, causing countless people to feel a chill in their hearts. Bang! As the energy storm spread in the sky, the two figures withdrew explosively. In front of everyone's eyes, Long Lin withdrew by 100 steps before he stood in the air with ease. On the other hand, each time the latter's feet landed on the air, a dark black scar would be formed in the air. His body appeared quite miserable. Only after he was 1,000 feet away, did he finally stabilize his feet while swaying. Chapter 1342. The spreading of the energy storm also brought about a hurricane that swept across the land. Countless towering ancient trees in the forest around the city were forcefully uprooted by this energy. After which, they flew into the distance. This scene was as though doomsday had arrived. What frightening energy! To think that a true fight between Origin Venerates is actually such a scene, the scene that appeared in the sky immediately caused an uproar to sound from the city below. Numerous gazes contained shock as they looked at the enormous spatial crack lines in the sky. The shock in their hearts increased with each additional glance. It looks like you can forget about becoming the second Yishengdu. You are so shameless. You actually dare to dream of catching up to such a person? Long Lin could not help but mock with a mocking expression after easily forcing Wudu back in succession. In the distance, Wudu's pale face instantly turned green when he heard Long Lin's mocking words. At the same time, the fear in his eyes deepened. Although the dragon tribe was arrogant, it must be said that they did indeed have the qualifications to be arrogant. Even with Long Lin's tyrannical strength, Wudu was unable to force him back even once, even after using his 10,000 poison Great Dao and Great Dao techniques. Wudu did not doubt that even someone of the same level as him would not be able to easily receive his attack. From this, it could be seen that Long Lin's cultivation was definitely far greater than his. How is it? Does sect leaders still plan on asking for more people? If you do, you can slowly try again. At this moment, Xiao Jin's faint laughter was once again transmitted over. This caused Wudu's face to become even more ugly. The latter's insulting actions caused him to be secretly furious in his heart. Regardless, the current him could only grit his teeth and swallow his anger. If he continued to be entangled in this manner, it was likely that today's matter would be difficult to resolve. At this moment, the first elder of the Dui sect, Su Shuang, also stepped forward and arrived beside Wudu with a grave expression. The two of them looked at each other. They could see the bitterness in each other's hearts. After hesitating for a moment, the two of them viciously clenched their teeth. Their gazes once again looked towards Xiao Jin and Long Lin as they unwillingly cupped their hands together and said, "What happened today is indeed the fault of my Dui sect. If we have offended you in any way, please forgive us." Once these words were spoken, not only the people in the city below, even Luo Cheng and the others in the sky heaved a long sigh of relief. Since Wudu had admitted defeat, then today's battle had finally come to an end. Even though there were many twists and turns, fortunately, there were not too many mishaps. Even though. With this thought in mind, the experts from the Luo clan could not help but cast their gazes towards Xiao Yan. After the previous battle, Xiao Yan was currently sitting cross-legged on the ground, quietly recovering the condition of his body. Although he looked calm, everyone present knew that this calmness was short-lived. On the other side, Gue Xing's dark and solemn gaze slowly swept over everyone present. Finally, it paused on Xiao Yan's group as he slowly said, "Xiao Yan, remember, as long as you are alive, my Ghost Temple sect will capture you sooner or later. You may be able to escape for now, but you will not be able to escape for your entire life. Remember." Once he finished speaking, he lifted the half-dead Gue Luo with one hand. His body swiftly flew back in the direction he had come from. Behind him, Wudu led the people from his sect and once again cupped his hands together towards Xiao Jin and Long Lin. After which, he swiftly turned around and left. At this point, the Battle of the Heavenly Cloud Villa could be considered to have come to an end. Although Xiao Yan wished that he could capture Gui Xing on the spot, he did not have the strength to do so. Although Long Lin was present, they also knew that the reason why the latter had intervened was because of Xiao Jin. Moreover, with Gui Xing's strength, even if he had to carry a seriously injured body, it would not be difficult for him to leave this place. Once this battle was over, it would be difficult for the Heavenly Cloud Villa to recover within a short period of time. Forget about the damage in the battle, just the large amount of spirit stones used to operate the greater one-star plate was also an extremely large amount. In the next few months, they would need to keep a low profile for a period of time. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had already passed. Everything in the Heavenly Cloud Villa had already returned to normal. Other than the stricter control of the clan members entering and leaving, there were no other changes. Xiao Jin and Long Lin had also temporarily stayed in the Heavenly Cloud Villa because of Xiao Yan's group. The entire Heavenly Cloud Villa was naturally overjoyed with the arrival of the Dragon Tribe. The Dragon Tribe had a lofty status in the magical beast world. Even countless human forces wanted to have a good relationship with them. However, until now, no human force had been able to have a connection with the Dragon Tribe. Now that the members of the Dragon Tribe were actually staying in the Heavenly Cloud Villa, once this news spread, it would be of great benefit to the villa. Other than this, Huazhu had also temporarily stayed in this place. Bai Hua's group was confused about the reason behind this. However, the members of the Luo clan did not dare to slight her. In an instant, the experts from the Dragon Tribe and the Cloud Immortal sect were staying in the Heavenly Cloud Villa. This caused a countless number of people to rejoice. Of course, the entire Luo clan also understood that the reason they were able to stay in this place was mostly because of Xiao Yan. In the meeting hall of the Heavenly Cloud Villa, the upper echelons of the Luo clan were accompanying Long Lin. From time to time, waves of heroic laughter would be emitted from both sides. It sounded quite harmonious. On the other side, Xiao Yan's face was expressionless as he sat cross-legged within a secret room. In front of him was an extremely exquisite ice coffin. The coffin's lid was not closed and a pretty lady in a long white dress was quietly lying within it. Her face was as white and smooth as jade. Although she was no longer breathing, she still appeared like a living person. Xiao Yan's eyes were filled with shock. This ice coffin was made from the extreme cold ice soul that Xiao Yan had in his hand. With the support of the heavenly flame and some special methods of Xiao Yan, it could ensure that the corpse in the ice coffin would remain intact. Although he did not know how long this time limit would be, Xiao Yan still insisted. After all, he did not believe that the fairy doctor in front of him was really dead. After so many years of companionship, he had already become used to all of this. Now that he was looking at the beautiful person in front of him lying on this cold ice bed, he did not dare to believe it and was unwilling to believe it. His gaze was in a daze as he stared at the fairy doctor's white face. Xiao Yan's mind could not help but recall the various things that had happened back then. The corners of his mouth could not help but widen. It was a bitter smile. Outside the secret room, Lian, and the rest were quietly guarding. As a disciple, Lian should have entered. However, they also understood that the fairy doctor only wished to be alone with Xiao Yan at this moment. Such a situation was likely the only one. Chapter 1343. Xiao Yan stayed in the secret chamber for more than 2 months. During this period, Xiao Yan repeatedly recalled the entire process of the black-robed man's sneak attack. The abruptness and disregard for one's own safety caused him to sink into grief and resentment time and time again. Based on his memory, Xiao Yan also recognized that the black-robed man was Su Zhen, who had chased after them together with Tang Long when they had just arrived in the central region. Moreover, from the situation that day, there was likely a powerful spiritual body in Su Zhen's body. Otherwise, he would not have been able to erupt with such combat strength. Since Xiao Yan had recognized Su Zhen, the killing intent in his heart naturally surged. However, it was quickly suppressed. Although he wished he could tear Su Zhen to pieces immediately, Xiao Yan was no fool. Due to the pressure of the Dragon Clan and the power of the Cloud Immortal sect, the battle had only just ended. Su Zhen was a disciple of the Daoist sect. If he killed him, it would definitely affect the Daoist sect again. At that time, when the conflict arose again, Long Lin might not intervene again. As for Su Zhen, Xiao Yan must kill him with his own hands. However, as of now, no matter how much resentment Xiao Yan had in his heart, he could only suppress it in his heart before he had sufficient strength. In short, strength was the foundation for him to overturn everything. Heavenly flame, within the dark room, the light was dim. A surging flame inadvertently flashed across Xiao Yan's dark black eyes, shining like a star in the dark night. The heavenly flame had once again become his greatest reliance. Only by finding the heavenly flame would his cultivation be able to raise within a short period of time. Only then would he be able to take revenge for the dead little fairy doctor. However, Xiao Yan did not know where the remaining two types of heavenly flames were located. If he did not know, then as the spirit of the heavenly flame, Huozhu might know some special secrets. At this moment, the latter was in the heavenly cloud manor. Rumble. The tightly shut door of the secret chamber was finally slowly opened amidst a heavy rumbling sound. Lian Er, who was guarding outside, was the first to be alarmed. When she saw Xiao Yan step out of the secret chamber, a bitter expression involuntarily appeared on the latter's pretty face. Xiao Yan's appearance had become much more haggard after 2 months. His entire appearance had also become thinner. His face was strangely pale, as though he had crawled out from a pile of corpses. However, at this moment, a pair of pitch-black eyes were flickering with a fervent fire. Take good care of her. Xiao Yan's gaze paused on Lian Er. As the disciple of the little fairy doctor, the current Lian Er was even more important in his eyes. The little fairy doctor had already passed away. No matter what, he would definitely not allow her only disciple to be harmed. Lian Er hurriedly nodded upon hearing this. After which, Xiao Yan directly left this place. By relying on the subtle connection between the heavenly flames, Xiao Yan was able to vaguely sense Huozhu's current location. If his guess was correct, it should be the square where the heavenly cloud saint weapon ranking was located. Along the way, Xiao Yan ignored the surprised gazes from the members of the Luo clan. A moment later, he appeared in the square. Huozhu was indeed here. However, Xiao Yan suddenly had an illusion that this fellow seemed to be waiting for his arrival. At this moment, the latter was standing in front of the heavenly cloud saint weapon ranking. It was as though he did not sense Xiao Yan's arrival. A pair of old eyes slowly swept over the ranking and involuntarily smiled and nodded. Fifth on the ranking, the Greater One Astrolabe. In this case, the Greater One Astrolabe should have been repaired. How surprising! Just as Huozhu was exclaiming in surprise, Xiao Yan had already arrived behind him. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Huozhu leisurely turn around and smile. Little fellow, do you know what is ranked first on the Heavenly Cloud Saint weapon ranking? I don't care what it is. I just want to ask you to tell me if there are any other heavenly flames in the central region other than yours, and where are they? Ignoring Huozhu's question, Xiao Yan went straight to the point. This time, he did not want to wait a moment longer. Little fellow, since you want to ask for advice, you should act like you are asking for advice. If you act like this, how can I tell you? Seeing this, Huozhu did not have any dissatisfaction. He just smiled with a hint of ridicule, turned around and ignored him. He continued to focus on the black stone tablet in front of him. Looking at the ancient and mysterious runes on it, he could not help but click his tongue in amazement. Later, Xiao Yan looked at the old man in front of him, and his emotions immediately tightened. He was about to urge him, but Huozhu suddenly turned his head and shot a cold gaze at him. He said in a half-joking voice, "Little fellow, after so many years of wandering in the continent, you don't even have this kind of temperament." The moment these words were uttered, the fire glow that filled Xiao Yan's eyes instantly disappeared. Even his hurried emotions immediately calmed down. His breathing paused for an instant. By the time he recovered, his expression immediately changed drastically as he began to pant intensely. Cold sweat involuntarily appeared in front of him and behind him. It was a long while later before he gradually calmed down. Looking at Huozhu, who seemed to have done nothing in front of him, Xiao Yan was shocked. He then respectfully bowed to the old man and apologized. "I have offended you before, please forgive me." Hearing this, Huozhu gently raised his hand again, turned around and smiled. "It doesn't matter. This old man doesn't mind. It's understandable that the person you love is leaving you. But remember, irrational anger will not be able to accomplish anything. As for your previous question, this old man can only answer that I don't know." As soon as these words came out, Xiao Yan suddenly raised his head and stared at Huozhu in disbelief. The heavenly flames could sense each other, not to mention that the heavenly flames in the world had already turned into spirits. The perception of each other was much clearer. If there was a heavenly flame in the central region, Huozhu should have sensed it. How could he say that he did not know? Don't think so much, this old man will not deceive you. If you don't know, then you don't know. It is true that the heavenly flames have turned into spirits, but it is also true that they will hide their aura. Otherwise, once they are discovered by some experts, even if they have turned into spirits, they can't hide. As soon as Huozhu's words came out, Xiao Yan immediately frowned. If that was the case, wouldn't it be difficult for him to find a heavenly flame? In that case, the revenge of the little fairy doctor. As soon as he thought of this, the expression on Xiao Yan's face suddenly became a little heavy. However, immediately after, Huozhu once again laughed softly and said, "This old man really doesn't know where the heavenly flames are in the central region, but this old man can recommend a person to you. That person must know." "Who?" Xiao Yan's eyes widened, as if he had grabbed a life-saving straw. His eyes were also filled with eagerness. Pill Tower's ancestor, Yao Dan. Chapter 1344. The ancestor of the Pill Tower? Xiao Yan's expression was immediately stunned when he heard Huozhu's words. Immediately, he laughed bitterly. The Pill Tower was a true overlord faction on the continent. The ancestor of the Pill Tower was an extraordinary existence. He had yet to even see the face of the Shao clan, much less the ancestor of the Pill Tower. It could be said that Huozhu's words could not be used as a reference. That's right. The ancestor of the Pill Tower has once roamed the continent and has seen many secrets of the continent that others cannot find out. I believe that he will definitely know if there is a heavenly flame in the middle region. As long as you can meet him, it should not be difficult to obtain information regarding the heavenly flame. Huozhu smiled and nodded as she spoke. Xiao Yan could only helplessly shrug his shoulders when he heard this. He temporarily ignored this point. Regardless of whether the ancestor of the Pill Tower was aware of it, Xiao Yan admitted that he was unable to meet the ancestor of the Pill Tower. There was no need to mention anything else. Ugh, since there was no news of other heavenly flames, it was likely that it would be difficult for his cultivation to increase for a long time in the future. Xiao Yan involuntarily let out a long sigh when he thought of this. Without a heavenly flame, how was he going to take revenge for the little fairy doctor? The Daoist sect was after all a super faction in the middle region with a rich foundation. As the origin emperor, Su Zhen's treatment within the sect would naturally be quite good. If this continued, it was likely that Su Zhen would become an opponent that was difficult to deal with before Xiao Yan could grow. Adding the Daoist sect and the spiritual body within his body, all these factors caused Xiao Yan to feel a great pressure. After this battle, the little fairy doctor had died. He and the Daoist sect could be said to have reached a point where they would not rest until one of them was dead. However, these words could only be said in the current situation. If he wanted to take revenge for the little fairy doctor, he would need more than just courage. Without a heavenly flame, given Xiao Yan's cultivation speed, it would be difficult for him to kill Su Zhen and take revenge even if he had another 10 years. Could it be that this was it? Xiao Yan's heart was heavy. The only thing he could think of was the Xiao clan. This foreign clan, which Xiao Yan still did not know what kind of relationship it had with him, might be able to become a cornerstone that would allow him to swiftly grow. However, Xiao Yan would have to wait until he arrived at the Xiao clan to see just what kind of relationship it had. From the looks of it, the Xiao clan wasn't completely trustworthy. Huh, little fellow, there's no need to be so conflicted. Although I can't find the other heavenly flames for now, isn't there one in front of you right now? Just as Xiao Yan was feeling distressed, Huazhu chuckled and said. Hearing this, Xiao Yan's expression was immediately startled. Then, he shook his head and smiled. Senior, you're flattering me. You've saved me twice. How could I dare to think about you? Moreover, you're the great elder of the Cloud Immortal sect. If something were to happen to you, it would be difficult for the Cloud Immortal sect to explain. This old man admires your character of being considerate. You don't need to care about what I do. The Cloud Immortal sect will have someone to take care of it. As for you, you only need to do one thing for me. Huazhu chuckled. At the same time, he took out a somewhat rusty badge from his storage ring and handed it to Xiao Yan. When the badge entered his hand, he felt a heavy feeling. From its simple and unadorned design, one could tell that this badge was probably quite old. However, apart from this, Xiao Yan could not see anything special about it. Senior, this badge is something that this old man and an old friend made an agreement. Now that the time has come, it's time to return it to him. You only need to personally hand it to him on behalf of this old man. Hearing this, Xiao Yan's heart could not help but tremble slightly. Since it was something that he had made an agreement with an old friend, it was reasonable to say that Huazhu should personally return it. Of course, he could not easily take it in his hands. A thought flashed through his mind. Just as Xiao Yan was about to return it to Huazhu, the latter raised his hand and stopped him. I haven't seen that old friend of mine for many years. If this old man personally returns it, it's difficult to guarantee that he won't have thoughts about this old man's body. Therefore, I'll leave this badge with you for the time being. If you meet him in the future, just return it to him. Remember, that person's name is Luya. If you meet him in the future, do not be careless. At the end of his words, Huazhu cautiously reminded him. When Xiao Yan heard the name Luya, his heart immediately recalled that old man from the southern region's Lutsang city. However, he also knew that although they had the same name, it was likely that the strength of a person who was mentioned by Huazhu would not be too weak. Immediately, Xiao Yan nodded gently and quietly remembered this name. At the same time, he tightly gripped the somewhat rusty badge in his hand. He hesitated for a moment before storing it into his storage ring. Seeing Xiao Yan put the badge into his storage ring, Huazhu nodded and then changed the topic with a smile. By the way, you haven't answered this old man's question. Do you know what is ranked first on the Heavenly Cloud Saint weapon list? Previously, he was so focused on asking about the heavenly flame that he directly ignored Huazhu's words. Now that he heard it again, the expression on Xiao Yan's face could not help but be startled. Only then did his gaze return to the black stone tablet in front of him. The first position was clearly empty, but in that case, why did Huazhu ask such a question? After a long while, Xiao Yan could only shake his head with a bitter smile. He cupped his hands towards the old man in front of him and said respectfully. Senior, please enlighten me. Huazhu parted his mouth and smiled when he heard this. His turbid old eyes once again looked at the stone tablet behind him. Immediately, he slowly raised his head and looked at the blue sky above his head. Xiao Yan followed his head and looked into the distance. After which, he exchanged glances with Huazhu. Xiao Yan involuntarily raised his eyebrows when he saw the expression in Huazhu's eyes that contained a deep meaning. It's the sky. As soon as these words came out, Huazhu pursed his lips and smiled, but did not explain further. Just as Xiao Yan was filled with doubts, he said. Alright, this old man will say this much for now. I believe that you will find out what exactly it is in the future. It has been 2 months and you should have a good rest. It will not be too late to look for this old man after you have made all the necessary preparations. Hearing this, Xiao Yan lowered his eyelids and nodded slightly. Only then did he bow and cup his hands towards the old man and leave. Looking at Xiao Yan's leaving figure, Hua Zhu could not help but let out a long sigh of relief. He turned around and looked at the black stone tablet in front of him again. There was a strange light in his eyes. A moment later, when Xiao Yan returned to his residence, he found that Xiao Jin was waiting for him alone. When he entered the door, Xiao Yan was surprised to see that Xiao Jin was holding 2 energy crystals emitting purple light in his hands at this moment. Chapter 1345. Inside the house, Xiao Yan looked at Xiao Jin, who was holding 2 crystal stones in front of him. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. There was a hint of surprise on his face. The latter quickly got up with a happy face and came to Xiao Yan, handing over the crystal stones in his hand. Last time brother Xiao Yan entered the secret room in a hurry, and it was inconvenient for Long Lin to be there, so it was delayed until now. Xiao Jin smiled sincerely, but there was a hint of slyness in his eyes. Although this guy usually spoke a little childishly, his character was quite meticulous. At this moment, he was so frank when he saw Xiao Yan. Seeing this, Xiao Yan couldn't help but chuckle. He took the 2 purple crystals from the former's hand and said with a slightly surprised expression on his face, "This is, best grade spirit stone, Once Xiao Jin's words were spoken, Xiao Yan's expression immediately became dull. He stared at the 2 purple-colored spirit stones in his hand and his heart was incomparably shocked. This was a true treasure that was above all other spirit stones. It was the purest and largest energy in the world. Based on Xiao Yan's knowledge in the past, this thing belonged to the legendary class. It was unexpected that he was actually able to see it today, and it was even in his own hands. This thing, while he was shocked, Xiao Yan also hurriedly looked up at Xiao Jin in front of him. He naturally knew the preciousness of the best-grade spirit stone, but it was also because of this that he must understand the origin of this spirit stone. If it was Xiao Jin, brother Xiao Yan, don't worry, this spirit stone was given to me by Grandpa Patriarch, but I don't have any use for it, so I prepared it for you. You need these things now. Appearing to have seen the worried expression between Xiao Yan's brows, Xiao Jin parted his mouth and smiled. Although these words were spoken carelessly, Xiao Yan understood that since it was a top-grade training resource, how could it be useless? It was because this little fellow was thinking about him that he was unwilling to use it. As he thought of this, a warm current immediately surged into Xiao Yan's heart. When he was training outside, he was always worried about his own safety and seldom thought about Xiao Jin. However, the latter had always been thinking about him in his heart. This involuntarily caused him to feel a little guilty. You can keep the spirit stone, but you must not tell Long Lin. That fellow is always staring at me, not letting me leave even a single step. He is so stingy. If he knows, I'm afraid he will tell Grandpa Patriarch. Xiao Jin gently scratched his head, curling his lips as he complained. Xiao Yan pursed his lips and smiled. He naturally understood the dragon tribe's intention. Letting Long Lin follow Xiao Jin was because they did not want anything to happen to him. Since the tribe leader of the dragon tribe was willing to give such a top-grade spirit stone to Xiao Jin, it was enough to see how important Xiao Jin was to them. However, it was already useless to talk about this now, after all. Since Elder Long Lin already knows, why are you standing outside and refusing to come in? Xiao Yan lifted his hand and gently patted Xiao Jin's shoulder. After which, he turned around and faced the door, cupped his hands together respectfully and said, Mr. Xiao Yan is too polite. Xiao Jin has acknowledged you as his elder brother, and I usually treat him like an elder brother. Calling me elder is a little too distant. Mr. can call me by my name in the future. As Xiao Yan's words sounded, Long Lin indeed walked in from outside the door. However, from the looks of it, he should have just arrived. Xiao Yan could not help but feel somewhat surprised when he heard these words. He glanced at Xiao Jin, who was standing to one side with a cautious expression. Only then did he smile, cupped his hands together towards Long Lin and said, "Brother Long Lin." The latter smiled and nodded. After which, his gaze once again landed on Xiao Jin. He did not know whether to laugh or to cry as he said, "You brat, the tribe leader gave you this top-grade spirit stone back then to help you quickly raise your cultivation, so that you can step into the origin sect as soon as possible. I never imagined that you would actually keep it for yourself." Upon hearing this, Xiao Jin curled his lips in a somewhat stubborn manner and refuted. "So what? The spirit stone was given to me by the tribe leader, so it's fine if I keep it. Besides, my cultivation has already entered the origin sect, so I haven't let you down." Long Lin immediately smiled bitterly when he heard these words. Although this brat's attitude was a little intense, his words were not wrong. Xiao Jin's cultivation had already advanced to a 6-star origin sect, which was already beyond their expectations. If the effects of the top-grade spirit stone were also excluded, then the talent that Xiao Jin had displayed would be far too terrifying. When Xiao Yan heard these words, he could not help but frown slightly. He knew the importance of this spirit stone in his heart. Only then did he look at Long Lin again and said, "Since that is the case, I think it's best to take back this spirit stone. Don't let down the tribe leader's kind intentions." After speaking, Xiao Yan was about to return the spirit stone in his hand to Long Lin, but the latter hurriedly waved his hand to stop him and smiled. "Brother Xiao Yan, you don't have to be like this. Xiao Jin is right. Since his cultivation has already entered the origin sect, the tribe leader will naturally be at ease for the time being. Furthermore, the tribe leader was the one who gave these spirit stones to Xiao Jin, so he should be the one to distribute them. Since he has given these spirit stones to you, you can be at ease and accept them." Xiao Yan was just about to say a few more words when he heard Long Lin's words, but he was stopped by Xiao Jin. After the latter's insistence, Xiao Yan gratefully stored the 2 spirit stones into his storage ring. After receiving the spirit stones, Xiao Yan and Xiao Jin naturally had a hearty chat. Long Lin found an excuse to leave, leaving this opportunity to the two. On the other side, Luo Jin eagerly followed Li Bingrui. He had a foolish smile on his face as he followed beside her. This caused some of the elders in the manor to not know whether to laugh or cry. At the same time, they also felt some anticipation. The manor head, Luo Cheng, was busy handling the affairs of the manor every day. Only Bai Hua, Lian, and the already deceased little fairy doctor waited in a lonely and desolate manner in the secret room. In the next few days, Xiao Yan found Luo Jin and handed a pill formula to the latter. Although Xiao Yan had most of the required medicinal ingredients, he was still missing a few of the more special key ingredients. Fortunately, he was currently in the Heavenly Cloud Manor. With the enormous resources and manpower of the Heavenly Cloud Manor, it was not difficult to find these ingredients. As for the medicinal pill described in the pill formula, it was the rank 6 medicinal pill that Xiao Yan had prepared for devouring the heavenly flame, the spirit-casting pill. In the short span of a week, the hundreds of required medicinal ingredients had all been gathered. Furthermore, as a precaution, 3 portions of each medicinal ingredient had been prepared. This was enough to show the importance that the Heavenly Cloud Manor placed on Xiao Yan. However, although the medicinal ingredients had all been gathered, Xiao Yan did not immediately open the cauldron to refine the pill. Instead, after some hesitation, he first took out the 2 top-grade spirit stones that Xiao Jin had given him. Chapter 1346. Ever since Xiao Yan's cultivation had broken through to the Origin Emperor realm, his spiritual strength had also improved. Although he could barely be called a rank 6 alchemist, it was still just a statement. Until now, Xiao Yan had not refined a single rank 6 pill. Hence, the authenticity of this identity had to be verified. Although he had already gathered all the ingredients needed to refine the casting soul pill, Xiao Yan still chose to increase his strength first just to be safe. The increase in Xiao Yan's cultivation would naturally increase the chances of Xiao Yan successfully refining the casting soul pill from another perspective. Absorbing the natural energy within the top-tier spirit stone at this moment would not only provide some help but also allow him to consolidate his own cultivation. Otherwise, if he were to continue refining the top-tier spirit stone after swallowing the heavenly flame, the effect he would obtain would definitely be reduced. Therefore, absorbing the energy within the top-tier spirit stone at this moment was the most appropriate time. Within the quiet room, the bright and beautiful sunlight outside the door passed through the window and scattered onto the floor of the room, leaving behind a mottled shadow. At this moment, Xiao Yan was seated cross-legged on the bed. His eyes were tightly shut as his hands formed the training seal. The flame mantra, Qi method within his body was circulating with a hu-hu sound. As he breathed in and out, threads of pure energy would follow Xiao Yan's breath and flow into his body from the top-tier spirit stone that was lying quietly in his embrace. After which, it underwent a simple refinement before finally agglomerating into the vortex. Compared to the high-grade spirit stones that Xiao Yan had used in the past, the top-grade spirit stone was very different. The energy contained within it was especially pure, reaching the point where it could be directly absorbed. In comparison, the world's energy within the top-grade spirit stone was even more vast. Just this one spirit stone alone was enough for Xiao Yan to break through to 3 stars. If he completely absorbed and refined these 2 spirit stones, his cultivation would definitely be able to step into 4 stars. It might even be possible for him to become a 5-star origin emperor. With this thought, Xiao Yan's emotions could not help but become fiery. He became even more eager to refine and absorb the spirit stone. As the flame art cultivation method in Xiao Yan's body rapidly circulated, waves of pure and vast energy crazily surged into his body. As the enormous energy surged into the meridians in his body, Xiao Yan's body could not help but tremble. After a long while, he gradually became accustomed to it. With a thought, the enormous energy began to circulate in an orderly manner. After circulating along the route of the flame art cultivation method for a cycle, it converged into the vortex space and became a part of Xiao Yan's body. The majestic energy all over his body caused Xiao Yan's breathing to become a little hurried. Fortunately, the energy did not possess any wild and violent character. Although it was pure and majestic, it could be considered gentle. Under this endless refinement and absorption, the aura of Xiao Yan's body swiftly rose. Even the empty space around him began to fluctuate intensely. Under Xiao Yan's refining, the Genesis Qi in his body gradually filled up, and everything slowly began to return to the right track. Given Xiao Yan's current cultivation, although the energy contained in the supreme-grade spirit stone was enormous, it was not enough to make him panic. Everything proceeded as smoothly as moving clouds and flowing water. As for what level he would reach after completely absorbing and refining the 2 spirit stones, that would depend on the results. After Xiao Yan entered a slow refining state, the courtyard he was in became a forbidden area of the heavenly cloud villa. In the outside world, Bai Hua and Lian were still patiently guarding the ice coffin. Although Li Bingrui was stubborn, her heart of ice that had never melted for thousands of years was still slightly moved by Luo Jin's thoughts. Meanwhile, on the other side, Su Zhen was seated cross-legged on the peak of the wretched disaster mountain range. As the last wisp of energy in his body converged into the vortex, he slowly opened his eyes. His brows were slightly furrowed, and a look of unwillingness flashed in his eyes. He clenched his fists, feeling the power in his body that had not changed much. A gloomy look involuntarily flitted across his eyes. It's been 2 months. Although my injuries have all healed, my cultivation still hasn't shown any results. I'm still quite a distance away from reaching the Source Ancestor realm. The 2 months had allowed Su Zhen to completely recover from the serious injury he had suffered the last time. Although his cultivation had advanced a little, it was very little. Additionally, Xiao Yan had not died. This caused Su Zhen's heart to be even more dissatisfied. Hehe, what are you so anxious for? Since your cultivation has already reached this level, it's only a matter of time before you break through to the Source Ancestor realm. As for Xiao Yan, he was lucky enough to escape the previous time. Next time, we must ensure that he has no way to survive. Yudu's figure slowly appeared in the void beside Su Zhen. He gently patted Su Zhen's shoulder, and a sinister look appeared in his gloomy old eyes. He did not notice the gloomy and cold glint that flashed across the depths of Su Zhen's eyes when he looked at him. Teacher, why don't this disciple go find another prey? As long as my cultivation breaks through to the Source Ancestor realm, we can go and kill Xiao Yan again. I don't believe that there will be anyone who will die for him this time. Su Zhen smiled sinisterly, and a bloodthirsty look appeared in his eyes. His 5 fingers suddenly clenched, and a ferocious force actually caused the space under his hand to explode. It was a terrifying sight. However, when Yudu saw this, the expression on his old face instantly changed, and he hurriedly shouted in a deep voice. Absolutely not. You know about the melting poison hand. It can indeed help you raise your cultivation, but if you want to rely on it to break through the bottleneck, don't tell me you don't want to live anymore. You're your teacher's only disciple. If you get rid of this matter, what will happen to my life's worth of knowledge? Hearing this, Su Zhen's face tightened. He frowned slightly and hurriedly apologized. This disciple is impatient for revenge, which is why I said such impulsive words. Teacher, please don't blame me. However, this disciple also hopes to raise his cultivation as soon as possible and settle the matter of the past for teacher. That's why, forget it, this old man also understands your thoughts. However, you must remember that the path of cultivation is still about gradual progress. You must not be too hasty. As for Xiao Yan, it won't be too late to kill him in the future. The most important thing for you now is to cultivate steadily. After a simple reprimand, Yudu patted Su Zhen's shoulder to comfort him. Su Zhen respectfully lowered his head, rested for a moment, and once again entered the state of cultivation. Seeing this, Yudu nodded slightly. He slowly took a breath and glanced at Su Zhen's calm face. His gloomy old eyes faintly flickered, and with a twist of his body, he turned into a ray of light and rushed back into Su Zhen's body. Chapter 1347. Space rippled endlessly in the quiet room as wave after wave of boundless energy swiftly surged, forming a large pillar of qi that frantically poured into the body of the young man seated on the bed. In the face of such an endless influx of energy, his body was akin to a bottomless pit. No matter how much energy was poured in, there was no sign of it overflowing. Ever since Xiao Yan had refined the first top-tier spirit stone, he had maintained this state for nearly a week. During this period of time, his body did not move even a little like a rock. Only the dim glow of the spirit stone in his chest and the empty space around his body trembled unceasingly within the room. This caused the natural energy to surge in the air above the room where he was located, emitting waves of whistling wind. With the terrifying energy contained within the top-grade spirit stone and the blaze mantra's refinement, wave after wave of extremely pure Genesis Qi flowed in Xiao Yan's meridians like the tide. Moreover, there was also quite a bit of natural energy mixed within. After being refined and absorbed, it was transformed into pure Genesis Qi that fused into the vortex in Xiao Yan's body. However, although there was a lot of natural energy, after being refined by the heavenly flame and the blaze mantra, the amount of pure Genesis Qi that could be absorbed by Xiao Yan was naturally not much. However, it was still better than nothing. What's more, cultivation was not something that could be accomplished overnight. Everything accumulated over a long period of time, reaching an extremely terrifying level. Otherwise, the result of relying on external items to raise one's strength would definitely not end well. No matter how good the cultivation resources were, they were after all only shortcuts to external items. If one placed too much emphasis on them, it would likely produce the opposite effect. However, if one were to really talk about it, this really appeared to be the first time that Xiao Yan had relied on a spirit stone to break through his cultivation. Although he had used a high-grade spirit stone to help his incarnation raise its strength in the past, if one were to really talk about it, it was not something that Xiao Yan himself used. Hence, this could not be considered an external object. Under Xiao Yan's cultivation, the majority of the natural energy contained within the top-grade spirit stone was completely absorbed by Xiao Yan in a week's time. His cultivation naturally advanced to the level of a 3-star origin emperor. From the looks of it, he was already an advanced 3-star origin emperor and was not far away from 4 stars. Taking advantage of the fact that the Genesis Qi in his body had yet to be completely absorbed, Xiao Yan immediately took out another top-grade spirit stone. In addition to the continuous infusion of natural energy around him, his cultivation broke through again, reaching the level of a 4-star origin emperor. However, this was clearly not the end. There was still a lot of energy left in the top-grade spirit stone. With this energy, he might be able to break through to the level of a 5-star origin emperor in one go. With this thought, Xiao Yan's heart suddenly burned with excitement. As the space around him fluctuated more and more violently, waves of pure energy continuously poured into the vortex in his body. The combination of the top-grade spirit stone and natural energy strengthened Xiao Yan's aura. In just a few hours, his cultivation had completely stabilized at the initial level of a 4-star origin emperor. Over the next few days, Xiao Yan focused all of his attention on absorbing the pure energy within the top-grade spirit stone. This caused the Genesis Qi flowing in his meridians to become increasingly vigorous. Every circulation would bring him nearly endless power. This feeling of fullness caused Xiao Yan's aura to rise faster and faster. When he reached the advanced 4-star origin emperor stage, the energy within the spirit stone gradually depleted, and the surrounding Genesis Qi slowly became insufficient to support him. If this continued, Xiao Yan's aura would likely stagnate. However, the more he reached such a stage, the calmer the emotions that Xiao Yan displayed were. He continued to absorb the modeled energy around him for his own use while withdrawing all the remaining Genesis Qi within the veins in his body and suppressing it back into the vortex space. Since he had already reached such a stage, Xiao Yan's strength would rise again if he could charge forward with all his strength and forcefully break through. When the vortex space in his body was completely filled and his Qi paths were filled with Genesis Qi, Xiao Yan's body trembled slightly as he slowly clenched his fists. His eyebrows tightened as a sense of urgency formed within his body, suppressing the vortex space and causing it to undergo a change. The originally abundant Genesis Qi within it was no longer at peace. As the pressure in his body gradually increased, Xiao Yan felt as if there was a wild beast within his body that was about to furiously charge out. This situation lasted for more than 2 hours. On the bed, Xiao Yan's face was already covered in beads of sweat, and his back was drenched in sweat. His face was flushed red, and the aura in his body grew increasingly tense, as if on the verge of bursting. The space around him constantly surged, and circle after circle of invisible spatial ripples spread, causing the furniture and decorations in the room to tremble. Until a certain moment, Xiao Yan's tightly shut eyes suddenly lifted his head. His eyes were wide open and filled with malevolence. His 2 fists, bulging with veins, slammed against each other in front of his chest. As powerful energy ripples unfurled, an invisible barrier in Xiao Yan's body suddenly shattered. Ha! At the same time, Xiao Yan's body suddenly shook. He stood up and the breath that was suppressed within his chest suddenly transformed into a thunder-like long roar. It actually sent the roof flying. An earth-shaking cry spread over the place like a bolt from the blue. The expressions of quite a number of people within the heavenly cloud villa suddenly changed. Bai Hua and Lian Er, Luo Jin and Li Bingrui, the small golden dragon scale, Huazhu, and the upper echelons of the Luo clan swiftly rushed over after hearing the sound. All they saw was that Xiao Yan was currently standing in the empty air. The clothes on his upper body were completely shattered, revealing his white and firm body. A powerful aura and pressure was spreading from his body in waves. However, this was not the end. With the breakthrough of Xiao Yan's cultivation, the vast and mighty natural energy in the area was once again attracted, forming an enormous energy tornado above Xiao Yan's head. The tornado whistled as the enormous energy pillar entered Xiao Yan's body from the top of his head. Under the crazy refinement of the heavenly flame, it was completely refined into waves of pure Genesis Qi that was absorbed into his body within a short period of time. By the time the tornado scattered, Xiao Yan's aura had completely stabilized at the initial 5-star origin emperor level. The entire process only lasted for less than half a month. In half a month, Xiao Yan had leapt from a 2-star origin emperor to a 5-star origin emperor. Although most of this was due to the effects of the supreme grade spirit stone, it was ultimately a fortuitous encounter of Xiao Yan's own. This made many people envious. Chapter 1348. In the sky above the heavenly cloud villa, Xiao Yan slowly withdrew his powerful presence. A sliver of satisfaction appeared on his face. The expenditure of 2 supreme grade spiritual stones had brought him the greatest benefit. He had advanced by 3 whole stars, and he had even used the opportunity earlier to completely consolidate his cultivation at early 5th-star origin emperor. Xiao Yan had made the best use of the 2 supreme grade spiritual stones. You've succeeded? At the same time that Xiao Yan landed in the courtyard below, Luo Jin and the others swiftly came forward. Their faces were filled with joy as they looked at the former. Xiao Yan's gaze involuntarily swept over Li Bingrui's lovely body by the side as he looked at Luo Jin, who had clearly become much more spirited. Immediately, he smiled and nodded. Hee, it's not just a success. You've actually used 2 supreme grade spiritual stones to increase your cultivation by 3 stars. This is something that's extremely rare even in the past. You've really benefited greatly this time, kid. Luo Ao smiled and came forward. His turbid old eyes sized up Xiao Yan's body. Even with this old man's temperament, he could not help but praise and sigh emotionally at this moment. The remaining few people beside him also involuntarily raised their eyebrows when these words were uttered. Everyone turned their gazes to Xiao Yan with surprised faces. The latter smiled in a somewhat embarrassed manner and said, "Don't worry." He smiled awkwardly and said, "I was just lucky earlier." Everyone naturally scoffed when they heard these words. When it came to training, all that mattered was one's success. Who would really believe in luck? As long as one could succeed, this was Xiao Yan's ability. They had lived for so many years. Naturally, they would not simply think about it because of these words. I never thought that in just half a year, the gap between your cultivation and mine would be so great. Beside Luo Jin, Li Bingrui involuntarily curled her mouth when she saw Xiao Yan in this manner. Her tone contained an unwillingness. It had only been half a year, but Xiao Yan's cultivation had leaped from the peak of the Origin King class to the level of a 5-star Origin Emperor. Looking at her, her cultivation was still lingering at the level of a 2-star Origin King. Although she was not far from a 3-star Origin King, she felt ashamed when compared to Xiao Yan in front of her. But I still say the same thing. If you want to kill me to avenge your master, I'm always ready. Xiao Yan smiled faintly when he heard that. He spoke half-jokingly. Li Bingrui glared fiercely at him when she heard that. She then looked at Luo Jin, who was smiling at her foolishly. She snorted and said, "Forget it. For this guy's sake, I can put this matter aside for now. We'll talk about it in the future." The moment these words were uttered, everyone present immediately gathered their gazes onto Luo Jin. This was especially the case for Xiao Yan. His gaze clearly revealed some surprise. He naturally understood Li Bingrui's icy-cold demeanor that had not melted for 10,000 years. However, this fellow was able to get her to utter such words. It was sufficient to see just how much effort Luo Jin had put in for Li Bingrui. It was also Luo Jin's ability to make such an icy beauty melt. After everyone laughed and chatted for a while, the others left one after another. Only Xiao Yan's group, Xiao Jin, and Long Lin were left. Huozhu stayed for a while, then looked at Long Lin and left together. Huh, you're really not simple. 2 supreme grade spirit stones. It can be said that you made the best use of them. You broke through 3 stars in one go and became a 5-star origin emperor. With such a cultivation, you can be considered to have a foothold in the central region. Luo Jin laughed heartily. Bai Hua and Lien looked at each other and nodded. Xiao Yan lowered his eyebrows and sighed softly. This is still not enough. Compared to the power of the Daoist sect, this bit of strength is far from enough. The atmosphere in the arena suddenly stilled when Xiao Yan's words were uttered. The few of them looked at each other and were silent. They were naturally clear about the meaning behind Xiao Yan's words. The matter of the little fairy doctor had already become a huge knot in Xiao Yan's heart. If he was unable to untie this knot, it was likely that even his training path would be affected. Fortunately, Xiao Yan's current state of mind was still considered calm. After everyone chatted for a while, Xiao Yan was led by Luo Jin to the largest square in the Heavenly Cloud Villa. The Sky Array platform was the largest square in the Heavenly Cloud Villa. It was also one of the symbols of the Heavenly Cloud Villa. Due to the fact that the square was filled with mysterious formation runes, it was also an important place where countless disciples of the Heavenly Cloud Villa used to practice their formations. However, an exception was made today. All the disciples of the Luo clan were not allowed to enter the square. Everything here was handed over to Xiao Yan for no other reason than the fact that Xiao Yan was going to refine the casting spirit pill here. It was not an exaggeration to say that this was the first time Xiao Yan had come into contact with a rank 6 medicinal pill. At this moment, his chances of successfully refining it were not high. Hence, at this moment, he needed to borrow some external assistance. For example, a heavenly flame and a medicinal cauldron. Xiao Yan already possessed these 2 items, so there was naturally no need to mention them. Other than ensuring his safety, Xiao Yan had also taken into account some specific environmental factors. With the help of the Sky Array platform, if Xiao Yan only had a 50% chance of successfully refining the casting spirit pill before, now he had a 60 to 70% chance of success. Other than being a structure formed by countless formations, the Sky Array platform also had the ability to draw in natural energy. By borrowing this ability to assist in refining the pill, it would undoubtedly increase the chances of successfully refining the pill. At the center of the Sky Array platform, there was a tall array platform. 4 stone steps surrounded it, and a white jade stone pillar stood at each corner. There were mountains, rivers, birds and beasts, as well as water and fire totems. In addition, it was filled with mysterious talismans. Although there were no spirit stones to operate them, they still flickered with a dim golden light. It was quite mysterious. Xiao Yan's eyes involuntarily flickered. Soon after, he lifted his feet and stepped onto the array platform under the gazes of the crowd behind him. At the center of the array platform, there was a protruding white jade praying mat. Other than the talisman markings on the ground around it, Xiao Yan also discovered some old marks left behind by heavy objects. With a glance, he knew that these marks were left behind by a medicinal cauldron. After pondering for a while in his heart, Xiao Yan immediately understood. Luo Ao had said that the ancestors of the Luo clan were once famous for refining weapons. Although they only flourished for a short period of time, it was likely that the marks of this medicinal cauldron were left behind. He wondered if he would be able to successfully refine a rank 6 medicinal pill with the help of his predecessors. Xiao Yan sighed in his heart. Immediately, he moved and sat cross-legged on this white jade futon. He gently exhaled a breath of air. After which, he flicked his finger and an enormous green-gold medicinal cauldron rose out of his storage ring. Chapter 1349. The huge medicinal cauldron, which was entirely green-gold in color and covered with various landscapes of mountains and rivers, landed heavily on the stone platform. When the huge and heavy medicinal cauldron landed, it emitted a buzzing sound when it collided with the stone platform. Xiao Yan took a deep breath as he gazed at the completely repaired medicinal cauldron. His eyes flashed. After Luo Ao's repair, the Luo Tian cauldron was even more domineering than before. The cracks all over its body had disappeared, replaced by an even thicker and more stable aura. The azure gold medicinal cauldron reflected a strange azure-colored light under the sunlight. At first glance, it looked as though a flame was burning on it. When one touched it, one would find that it was not as cold as an ordinary medicinal cauldron, but instead had a faint warmth. It was indeed different from a medicinal cauldron ranked on the heavenly cauldron list. After the surprise on his face, Xiao Yan opened his mouth. As he circulated the Genesis Qi in his body, a raging purple flame spat out from his mouth. After a moment of twisting and turning, it poured into the medicinal cauldron through the fire entry hole. Immediately, it exploded, transforming into a large cluster of raging flames that continued to churn within the medicinal cauldron, raising the temperature of the medicinal cauldron even more. While the Genesis Qi within Xiao Yan's body was being maneuvered, an unusual phenomenon suddenly occurred on the heaven array stage where he was located. The originally calm symbols on the ground suddenly flickered and spread. They spread to the four sides of the stone stage and stopped along the edges of the four stone pillars. Subsequently, circular light continued to climb until the four stone pillars were completely lit up. Golden light lingered and shot out from the four stone pillars. After which, it gathered at one spot. Finally, it formed a golden formation barrier in the sky above the stone stage. From the looks of it, it should have been left behind by the predecessors. The tensed emotions in Xiao Yan's heart finally began to relax as he watched the scene in front of him. At the same time, he was also surprised by the tactics of a formation master. To think that there was such a method hidden within these seemingly ordinary symbols. If he had not maneuvered the Genesis Qi in his body earlier, it was likely that he would not have discovered the special connection between these symbols. This was especially the case for the four stone pillars. The drawings on them caused him to be extremely surprised. Xiao Yan withdrew his mind. His gaze once again landed on the medicinal cauldron in front of him. As the flame rose within it, Xiao Yan waved his sleeve. Light rapidly flickered on his storage ring as one medicinal ingredient after another immediately flew out. They were wrapped in Genesis Qi as they floated in the air above the medicinal cauldron. There was a shocking number of them. At a glance, they gave off a beautiful feeling. The spirit casting pill was a grade 6 pill that had the effect of stabilizing one's spirit source. Once used, it would strengthen one's spirit power. It was a rare treasure for alchemists and array masters. Of course, the effects of the spirit casting pill could not be stacked. Hence, one could only use it once in one's lifetime. If one used it more than once, it would no longer be of any use. The ingredients needed to refine it were quite numerous. There were roughly 500 types, and the majority of them were precious ingredients that could strengthen one's spirit power. They were priceless existences on the market, and several of them had been obtained by Xiao Yan through luck. At most, he could only use them twice. If he failed, the spirit casting pill would be a complete failure. Once the pill was formed, the spirit casting pill's special effects would allow one to resist the power of the heavenly fire and refine Huazhu's body. It was a pretty good choice. Xiao Yan carefully looked at the pill formula in his hand a couple of times. After memorizing some of the key points in his mind, Xiao Yan finally inhaled a deep breath of air. After which, he slowly exhaled. The instant he lifted his head, a fire glow flickered deep within his eyes. When the temperature within the medicinal cauldron reached a certain peak, Xiao Yan suddenly raised his hand and slammed it onto the medicinal cauldron. The instant a clear collision sound appeared, quite a number of the hundreds of medicinal ingredients that were suspended around the medicinal cauldron rushed into the medicinal cauldron. Soon after, the unceasing raging fire within swallowed them. Under the wild refinement of the heavenly flame, waves of turbid viscous liquid surfaced on the surface of the medicinal ingredients. Some of them formed a hard surface, while some of them emitted waves of wild and violent energy that temporarily blocked the attack of the heavenly flame. However, Xiao Yan was unconcerned about all of this. He calmed his heart and his cross-legged seated body did not move. Both of his eyes were slowly shut tightly. By relying on his enormous spiritual strength, everything within the medicinal cauldron landed in his mind without any mistake. 4 hours later, the medicinal ingredients within the medicinal cauldron had all undergone changes. Under the frighteningly high temperature of the purple flame, all of the medicinal ingredients were completely refined into pure powder and medicinal liquid. After which, they gradually merged together under the exquisite control of Xiao Yan's spiritual strength. The first step had been safely passed. This was indeed within Xiao Yan's expectations. However, the second step, pill fusion, would likely not be so smooth. It was precisely because most of the ingredients were of similar attributes that there were much fewer medicinal ingredients needed to harmonize the medicinal properties. This was not because there were insufficient medicinal ingredients, but because the spirit-casting pill's characteristics were as such. Due to the excessive pursuit of enhancing one's spiritual strength, the refinement method was excessively extreme. The spiritual strength contained within the medicinal liquid and powder was excessively vast, and the medicinal properties were naturally even more intense. Fusing them together was naturally not an easy task. At the beginning of the fusion process, the first step was to fuse several medicinal liquids and powders with relatively mild medicinal properties. Once the medicinal properties gradually stabilized, the fused viscous ointment would slowly be mixed together. Although the process sounded simple, truly fusing the enormous medicinal properties within the medicinal liquids together was not an easy task. Relying on stubborn patience and tremendous spiritual strength, the initial fusion process lasted for nearly 2 hours. Even Xiao Yan's Genesis Qi and spiritual strength had been consumed by quite a bit. Fortunately, everything was still considered stable. Within the medicinal cauldron, most of the originally hundreds of medicinal liquids and powders of different sizes had already been completely condensed, forming a dozen new viscous medicinal balls the size of a palm. The medicinal properties within had basically fused together. Although it was not perfect, it was stable on the same level. At the very least, there would not be any energy riots. Next, it was time for the remaining dozen medicinal balls to fuse together. If they succeeded, the most crucial step of the spirit-casting pill would be considered to have passed. However, bzz. When 2 of the medicinal balls gradually approached each other under Xiao Yan's control, berserk energy undulations abruptly surged out from the 2 medicinal balls, ruthlessly slamming into the inner walls of the medicinal cauldron. Immediately, a loud and clear sound wave rapidly spread, causing the entire medicinal cauldron to tremble. Chapter 1350. The enormous green-gold medicinal cauldron in front of Xiao Yan on the sky array stage trembled violently a couple of times. A clear collision sound suddenly appeared. Even Xiao Yan, who was seated on the prayer mat, had a change in expression. A thought passed through his mind and an enormous spiritual strength was immediately poured into the medicinal cauldron in front of him. By relying on the heavenly flame, he was able to gradually suppress the 2 wild, violent energy ripples. The body of the cauldron gradually stabilized. Fortunately, the remaining medicinal balls within the medicinal cauldron did not suffer much of an impact under the wrapping of the heavenly flame. Otherwise, once the energy contained within those medicinal balls exploded, it was likely that it would cause quite a big commotion. Did something happen? Outside the heaven array platform, Luo Jin frowned as he lifted his head to look at Xiao Yan. Due to the isolation of the array, he couldn't see the contents inside, but the energy undulations just now made his heart tighten. Don't be anxious. Don't worry. How can refining pills be so easy? It's reasonable to encounter some trouble. I believe that the little guy will be able to solve it. Besides, you and I are outsiders. Even if something really happens, what can we do? It's better to wait for his good news in peace. While Luo Jin was feeling nervous, Luo Ao had unknowingly appeared in the crowd. He gently patted Luo Jin's shoulder, suppressing Luo Jin's anxious emotions. Only then did Luo Jin sigh softly and calm down again. Although this place had calmed down, the group of Luo clan disciples behind them were currently making a ruckus. Their endless chatter was like a ferocious beast hovering above everyone's heads, causing the emotions in the hearts of Luo Jin and the rest to be stirred up once again. Seeing this situation, Luo Ao helplessly curled his lips. He turned around and berated them, causing everyone present to immediately leave like the receding tide of the sea. At the same time, Xiaoyan's brows were tightly knitted together. While his mind was racing, he quickly raised his hands. Genesis Chi gathered in his palms as he slammed his palms into the medicinal cauldron. Together with the pressure of his spirit power, invisible waves of energy formed in the medicinal cauldron, temporarily suppressing the energy suppressed in the medicine balls. Soon after, the two medicine balls from before slowly approached each other and began to merge again. Chi. When the two came into contact, the two energies contained within them immediately began to churn and collide. The originally round surfaces of the two medicinal clusters were churning unceasingly at this moment. They were just like living creatures. Wave after wave of energy ripples repeatedly collided at the point where the two came into contact. Despite Xiao Yan suppressing them, this merger process still appeared incomparably strenuous. However, Xiao Yan also understood that this was merely the beginning. The 10+ medicinal clusters needed to undergo repeated merging until all of the medicinal clusters were merged into one. Moreover, the energy within them would be maintained in a balanced state and would no longer erupt. This process would definitely be long and difficult. Xiao Yan's heart was filled with joy as he looked at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's heart was filled with joy. In the blink of an eye, 6 days had passed since Xiao Yan began the process of merging the pill. During these 6 days, waves of intense energy ripples would occasionally be emitted from the sky array stage. That scene caused some of the passers-by outside of the stage to be extremely shocked. At this moment, in front of Xiao Yan, there were only 2 medicinal balls left of the dozen or so medicinal balls in the cauldron. These 2 medicinal balls were the product of fusing all the medicinal balls. Although the enormous energy within the dozen or so medicinal balls had been fused, the size of the 2 medicinal balls was not as shocking as imagined. They were still the size of a palm, and all the impurities within them had been removed. After being refined by the strange fire, the surface of the 2 medicinal balls had become even rounder and glossier. Although the pills had not been formed, one could already smell a trace of pill fragrance, which made one feel refreshed. Xiao Yan's tightly shut eyes slowly opened. His gaze stared intently at the 2 medicinal clusters within the medicinal cauldron. He inhaled a deep breath of air and held it in his chest. After which, he carefully and cautiously controlled the flame within the medicinal cauldron, controlling the 2 medicinal clusters to slowly approach each other. As long as this step could be completed, there was nothing to be worried about in the following steps. Under the isolation of the heavenly flame within the medicinal cauldron, the 2 medicinal clusters slowly approached each other at an extremely slow speed. The short distance of a few inches lasted for nearly half an hour. At this moment, Xiao Yan's forehead was already covered by dense perspiration. His pair of dark black eyes stared intently at the 2 medicinal clusters within the medicinal cauldron. Only when the surface of the 2 gradually came together did Xiao Yan leisurely exhale the breath that he had held in his chest. Just as Xiao Yan was about to let out a sigh of relief in his heart, an energy fluctuation that was even more violent than the past few days suddenly surged out from the place where the 2 collided. It forcefully extinguished the fierce purple flames around the 2 and then violently collided with the inner wall of the cauldron. Clang! The heavy cauldron suddenly trembled. Even the entire stone platform Xiao Yan was on shook. The formation barrier above his head fluctuated violently. Only then was it able to resist the aftermath of the shock. At this moment, Xiao Yan's expression also changed drastically. He hurriedly mobilized all of his remaining spiritual strength and poured it all into the cauldron. With a wave of his sleeve, the fierce flames enveloped the entire cauldron from the outside. A powerful aura and pressure swept out from his body, forcefully resisting the abnormality within the cauldron. Although this was the case, it had yet to reach the stage where it could be calmed down. When Xiao Yan focused his gaze and stared intently at the space between the two medicinal lumps, a purple flame surfaced deep within his eyes. Everything in front of his eyes also became even clearer. At a certain instant, Xiao Yan absent-mindedly saw the intense battle between the two medicinal lumps as the energy eroded and merged. Under Xiao Yan's observation, the energy within the two medicinal lumps was indeed soaring at an extremely fast speed. If this speed continued, it would not take long before all of the energy within the two medicinal lumps would merge together. Logically speaking, this was indeed something to be happy about. However, what caused Xiao Yan to be solemn at this moment was that although the spiritual strength within the medicinal lumps was increasing explosively, the energy that was used to balance the stability of the medicinal lumps was rapidly flowing away under this intense consumption. If this continued, the final result of the merging of the medicinal lumps would be to form a frightening spiritual strength that no one could control. Once this energy exploded within the heavenly cloud villa, the result would be unimaginable. This time around, Xiao Yan could be said to have merged a terrifying bomb with this pill merger. Chapter 1351. Clang clang clang, Xiao Yan sat cross-legged in front of the medicinal cauldron, his brows tightly knitted together. His expression was grave as he stared intently at the two gradually fusing medicinal balls in the cauldron. His heart sank to rock bottom. The situation in the cauldron was no longer under his control. Even if he used all of his spirit power and Genesis Chi to stabilize it, the result was still unsatisfactory. The remaining balanced medicinal strength within the two medicinal balls was still rapidly decreasing. Waves of powerful soul ripples that caused one's heart to palpitate spread out from within the medicinal cauldron. The majestic energy aura was simply shocking. Every time the enormous soul strength within the medicinal cauldron fluctuated, the sturdy array barrier that enveloped the stone platform outside the medicinal cauldron would also tremble intensely. Such a commotion immediately alarmed many people within the villa. Outside the sky array platform, Luo Ao and the others frowned. They could not help but become nervous as they felt the powerful spirit undulation spreading from the platform. Beside them, the 7 heroes of the Luo clan arrived one after another. Even Luo Cheng had appeared. This immediately caused a commotion in the crowd. Curious gazes gathered at the center of the sky array platform. Although they couldn't see clearly, they could feel the terror within. "Patriarch, what should we do?" A Luo clan elder behind Luo Cheng asked in a low voice as he stepped forward. "What can we do? Refining pills isn't fighting. How can we help just because we want to? In this situation, the only thing we can do is to make preparations to prevent any unforeseen events from happening." Hearing this, Luo Cheng frowned and reprimanded him. Only then did the latter hurriedly withdraw respectfully. After which, he led the elders of the Luo clan to set up a huge array barrier outside the sky array platform, covering the entire sky array platform. At this moment, the space beside Luo Cheng became slightly distorted. Immediately, Huazhu's figure appeared. Seeing Huazhu, Luo Cheng hurriedly bowed. Huazhu waved his hand and continued to look towards the depths of the sky array platform. With his powerful cultivation, Huazhu could clearly see Xiao Yan's current situation. He couldn't help but frown. The spirit power in the medicinal cauldron had reached an extremely terrifying level. Based on the current situation, it wouldn't be long before the spirit power in the medicinal pill exploded. The array barrier alone was likely unable to withstand the impact of the spirit storm. Moreover, Xiao Yan was still inside. Once the medicinal pill exploded, he would be the first to bear the brunt of the explosion. With this thought in mind, Huazhu couldn't help but shake his head helplessly. He then turned to Luo Cheng. "Patriarch Luo, let's disperse the array barrier." Hearing this, Luo Cheng's expression froze. He wanted to refute, but when he saw the calm expression on Huazhu's face, he nodded hesitantly and ordered the elders of the Luo clan to disperse the huge array barrier that enveloped the entire sky array platform. "Elder, this old man will do it." Huazhu's body trembled, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared on the stone platform at the center of the sky array platform. Even the array formed by the 4 stone pillars couldn't stop him. The powerful energy of a source venerable was fully displayed at this moment. A powerful spiritual storm swept out from the medicinal cauldron in front of Xiao Yan the moment Huazhu appeared on the stone platform. At this moment, Xiao Yan might have sensed the arrival of Huazhu, but he could not afford to be distracted by the situation within the medicinal cauldron in front of him. All he could do was use all his strength to stabilize the situation within the medicinal cauldron. "Kid, you just need to follow what this old man says. I'm afraid that you will need to use all your strength in the following process." Huazhu's tone was solemn as he glanced at the huge medicinal pill that was violently churning in the medicinal cauldron. He didn't care if Xiao Yan listened to him as he waved his sleeve. Immediately, an invisible flame surged out, covering the entire medicinal cauldron in the blink of an eye. The frightening temperature caused even the runes on the array platform to distort slightly. Tiny cracks even appeared on them. "Kid, stop now. Withdraw all the heavenly flames and spiritual strength." Huazhu let out a low cry. The expression in Xiao Yan's eyes immediately shook. He immediately withdrew his consciousness from the medicinal cauldron in front of him. He didn't dare to hesitate as a thought passed through his mind, withdrawing all the heavenly flames and the spiritual strength that had spread out. At the same time, a powerful aura surged out from within Huazhu's body, suppressing the energy waves that were wildly colliding against the inner walls of the medicinal cauldron. While the medicinal pill was trembling rapidly, a thought passed through Huazhu's mind. An even more powerful spiritual strength immediately gathered crazily within the Luo Tian cauldron. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into a small, invisible medicinal cauldron that wrapped around the medicinal pill. The invisible flame quickly followed and began to refine it. With Huazhu's spiritual strength suppressing it and the wild refinement of the fallen heart flame, the wild and violent spiritual strength within the medicinal pill was forcefully mixed together. However, this method was after all relying on an external force to forcefully mix them together. It was unable to truly merge the pill. What was required in order to perfectly merge those energies was Xiao Yan's personal refinement. "Xiao Yan, the old me will use my body to suppress the energy within this medicinal pill and stop it from rampaging. However, remember, this is only temporary. You must successfully refine this medicinal pill before the old me's spiritual strength is completely exhausted. Otherwise, the consequences will likely be even more serious than now." Huazhu's solemn voice was once again transmitted over while Xiao Yan was panting intensely. When the former raised his head to take a look, Huazhu's body gradually became illusionary. Finally, it transformed into a cluster of invisible flame that entered the medicinal cauldron. It agglomerated into a small cluster of flame that lingered above the small medicinal cauldron, constantly suppressing the medicinal pill within it. Seeing this scene, the expression on Xiao Yan's face instantly froze. This scene had also appeared on Hai Machin and the others back then. Dissolving the physical body and returning to the original body. Once the spiritual origin was dispersed, the Huazhu before him would completely return to the original body and become an ownerless object. The power of the fallen heart flame would also erupt without restraint. The consequences would be unimaginable. It was also because of this that Huazhu had requested him to refine the spirit casting pill and use it to refine the fallen heart flame before his spiritual origin was completely exhausted. Huff, after exhaling a long breath, Xiao Yan's state of mind gradually tensed up. With a flip of his palm, he took out a few medicinal pills from his storage ring and consumed them. He felt waves of warmth gradually spreading within his body. Only then did his gaze return to the medicinal cauldron before him. With a thought, purple flames immediately surged out. Chapter 1352. As the energy fluctuation within the medicinal cauldron was suppressed, the huge medicinal pill that had already fused together could be considered to have taken shape. The medicinal strength within it was mixed together under the pressure of the fallen heart flame and Huazhu's enormous spiritual strength. Although it was in one place, it was as messy as hemp. At this moment, what Xiao Yan needed to do was to sort out this mass of indiscernible and chaotic energy. With the help of Huozhu's strength, Xiao Yan could be considered to have barely passed this stage. Although there were some dangers during this period, it was not as if he did not gain anything. Other than his own powerful spiritual strength, this embryonic pill also contained a portion of Huozhu's spiritual strength. It was also because of this spiritual strength that it was able to balance out the rest of the energy. If this medicinal pill could be successfully refined, Xiao Yan believed that it would be the most special and powerful casting spirit pill in history. In the past, other than the rich spiritual strength, the rest of the casting spirit pills were used to balance the medicinal properties. However, this casting spirit pill was mainly made up of spiritual strength. The rest of the miscellaneous energy had long been exhausted. Once the pill was refined, its effect would naturally surpass the casting spirit pill that everyone knew. Outside the sky array platform, everyone sensed that the energy fluctuation at the center of the stone platform had gradually dissipated. Only then did they secretly sigh in relief. Luo Cheng and the few villa elders beside him also looked at each other. They knew that with Huozhu's help this time, this accident could be considered to have come to an end. However, what surprised them was that Huozhu did not appear again after entering the depths of the sky array platform. As for what exactly had happened, it was likely that only Xiao Yan knew about it. Since the problem has been solved, the next refinement should only be a matter of time. Luo Jin sighed as he looked at the depths of the sky array platform. The expression on his face had also calmed down as the energy fluctuation calmed down. Hearing this, Luo Ao beside him could not help but smile and say, the casting soul pill can be considered as a high-grade pill amongst tier 6 pills, and is rather difficult to refine. If this little fellow is really able to successfully refine it on his first try, that would truly be unbelievable. According to what I know, even some of the young disciples of some alchemy clans in the central region might not be able to succeed on their first try at refining a tier 6 pill, let alone this casting soul pill, which is not easy to begin with. Luo Ao smacked his lips. His old face was filled with praise. This also caused the smile on Luo Jin's face by the side to become even brighter. This fellow had a kind of blind confidence in Xiao Yan. Now that he heard Luo Ao's praise, the emotion in his heart could not help but become a little excited. While everyone was sighing in relief, Xiao Yan's mind had once again gathered on the medicinal cauldron in front of him. All of his remaining spiritual strength was poured in. A fierce purple-colored flame surged up, further refining the palm-sized medicinal pill within it. Within the medicinal cauldron, the purple-colored flame wrapped around a palm-sized medicinal ball. The color of this medicinal ball was a little colorful. Overall, it was more purple-colored. However, it was mixed with other colors, causing it to appear disharmonious. There were even minute gaps that could not be seen with the naked eye at the places where the colors connected. However, under the continuous refinement and merger of the heavenly flame, the energies of different colors continued to slowly merge together. Xiao Yan heaved a sigh of relief as he sensed the continuous fusion of energies within the pill ball. After the previous unforeseen event, the casting soul pill was finally gradually on the right track. The subsequent matters would become much more stable. From the looks of it, as long as all of the medicinal energies within it were completely fused, it would gradually condense into an embryonic medicinal pill. However, the problem that Xiao Yan was currently facing was that he needed to refine the casting soul pill before Huozhu's spiritual energy was completely exhausted. This required Xiao Yan to go all out. The process of fusing the pill was destined to be slow. Fortunately, Huozhu was in charge of the casting soul pill this time around, making the process much simpler. As long as no energy riot appeared within the embryonic pill, it was not impossible to refine the medicinal pill within a short period of time with the might of the heavenly flame. Of course, this was also destined to be a difficult battle of attrition. Xiao Yan clenched his teeth. While controlling the ferocious flame within the medicinal cauldron, he once again took out a bunch of medicinal pills from his storage ring and stuffed them into his mouth without any hesitation. After swallowing one of them, he wildly absorbed the energy that surged into his body. The flame within the medicinal cauldron had clearly become a little more ferocious. The so-called battle of attrition was not even worth mentioning in front of Xiao Yan's enormous amount of medicinal pills. With the continuous replenishment of the medicinal pill, the flame within the medicinal cauldron gradually stabilized. The embryonic pill rotated and rotated under the wild refinement of the heavenly flame. At the same time that the medicinal strength was swiftly merged, its size also gradually decreased. Now, the thing that Xiao Yan needed to do was to quietly wait. This wait lasted for a full week. During this week, the crowd that had gathered outside the sky array stage had also gradually dispersed. The situation had returned to normal. The upper echelons of the heavenly cloud villa had also relaxed. However, there would occasionally be people who would come outside the sky array stage to look inside. On one hand, they were observing Xiao Yan's movements. At the same time, they were also there to prevent the same unforeseen event from happening again. Fortunately, once that kind of matter was resolved, it would not happen again. Within the stone platform, Xiao Yan's seated body was as still as a rock. All of his attention was placed on the medicinal cauldron in front of him. The raging flames continued to refine the medicinal pills. At the same time, waves of rich pill fragrance also lingered on the sky array stage like a misty cloud. This caused many people to stop in their tracks. Many people's eyes even flickered with admiration. The pill fragrance was the prerequisite for the refinement of a medicinal pill. It could be said that as long as the pill fragrance was condensed during the refinement process, the medicinal pill was considered complete. Currently, the sky array stage was shrouded in a misty cloud. The pill fragrance was so rich that it refreshed one's heart. Everyone could naturally imagine how the refinement of the spirit-casting pill was. Until a certain moment, Xiao Yan's body, which was seated cross-legged on the stone platform, suddenly trembled. His hands were swiftly lifted and his 10 fingers moved together. His fingertips formed a seal and circular flame rings swiftly appeared on the exterior of the medicinal pill that had already been formed within the medicinal cauldron. After which, they gradually gathered and merged into the medicinal pill. The originally trembling medicinal pill also stopped the instant the flame rings entered it. Rumble, almost at the same time, in the originally clear sky above the 9 heavens, a series of shocking thunderclaps suddenly resounded, and dense dark clouds rolled out along with it. The rank 6 medicinal pill, the spirit-casting pill, is complete? This kid is really surprising. In a courtyard of the villa, Luo Ao and Luo Jin raised their heads to look at the scene in the sky. While their eyes flickered, they could not help but exclaim in admiration. Chapter 1353. The sudden appearance of such a phenomenon in the sky above the great difficult cloud mountain villa also alarmed the upper echelons of the Luo clan. Immediately, a wave of rushing wind sound appeared in the sky. Numerous figures stepped into the sky and paused in the sky above the sky array stage. They lifted their heads and looked at the dark clouds that were swiftly spreading in the sky. Their expressions were grave. Rank 6 pill lightning is not easy to deal with. Luo Xiong's body stood proudly in the sky. His expression was grave as he looked at the frightening thunderbolt that continuously flashed like a swimming dragon within the dark clouds. His tone was a little grave as he spoke. Beside him, Bai Hua and the rest were also present. They felt the waves of frightening pressure that spread from the thunder clouds. Even they felt their hearts palpitate. Form the formation. That little fellow has just finished refining a medicinal pill. He is definitely at his weakest now. Leave this pill lightning to us. The thick dark clouds in the sky had almost covered half of the heavenly cloud mountain villa. Luo Xiong involuntarily cried out with a grave expression upon seeing this. The elders of the heavenly cloud mountain villa in the sky were just about to respond when a sharp rushing wind sound suddenly appeared below them. Soon after, an ice-cold human figure that was filled with a murderous aura appeared in front of everyone's eyes. It was the Northern King. Puppet? Luo Xiong involuntarily lifted his eyebrows when he saw the Northern King. A surprised expression was revealed on his face. He was naturally able to tell that the Northern King in front of him belonged to Xiao Yan. However, what use could a mere puppet have in the face of such a pill lightning? He was about to act and form the formation when Xiao Yan's somewhat weak voice was suddenly transmitted over. "Great Elder, leave the pill lightning to my puppet," said Yi Futian. The expression on Luo Xiong's old face immediately changed when these words were uttered. If these words had not come from Xiao Yan's mouth, it was likely that he would have already retorted. The pill lightning was formed from the strength of the world. Its strength was naturally self-evident. How could a mere puppet block the strength of the pill lightning? First Elder, don't worry. If he was not completely confident, he would not have said such words. Moreover, this pill lightning may seem a little troublesome to us, but it is the best nourishment for the Northern King. At this moment, Bai Hua by the side smiled and spoke. Even though the thick pill lightning in the sky made her feel pressured, all of this did not matter as long as the Northern King was present. After hearing the latter's words and Xiao Yan's request, Luo Xiong suspiciously ordered the elders to back off. Luo Xiong. After hearing the latter's words and Xiao Yan's request, Luo Xiong was skeptical. Luo Xiong. Luo. Currently, the Northern King's battle prowess was comparable to a 6-star origin emperor. If he used his full strength, he would be even stronger. From the looks of it, the Northern King should have absorbed all the lightning energy absorbed from the lightning pool in the sky. That was why he had advanced. Rumble, the Northern King stood proudly in the sky. Its empty eyes looked at the churning thunderclouds in the sky. Its fists were tightly clenched, and a frightening force caused even space itself to distort. Many tiny cracks even appeared. Luo Xiong and the rest involuntarily raised their eyebrows when they saw this scene. Just this point alone showed that the Northern King was different from ordinary puppets. Crackle. Suddenly, an earth-shattering bolt of lightning shot out from the churning thunderclouds in the sky. The blinding light caused the dark sky to brighten. Then, like a giant beast, it charged towards the Northern King below. As the pill lightning descended, the North King did not show any signs of weakness. He stomped his foot in the air, and the space beneath his feet immediately distorted and caved in. Accompanied by a dull explosion, the North King's figure shot up into the sky. On the stone platform below, Xiao Yan quickly put away the spirit-casting pill. He did not have the time to bother with the pill lightning and the Northern King, who were about to clash in the sky. He hurriedly consumed 2 more pills. While the medicinal effects were still in effect, he once again focused his attention on the cauldron in front of him. The casting soul pill had already been successfully refined, and there was not much spiritual soul source left in the medicinal cauldron. It would probably completely disperse in a short while. At that time, the fallen heart flame would also explode. He needed to consume the casting soul pill before that happened, and start devouring the heavenly flame. Boom. A deafening explosion suddenly spread in the sky, attracting everyone's attention. The Northern King puppet was not afraid of the pill lightning at all. Not only did the former's fierce attack not cause any injuries to the Northern King, it even caused the lightning symbols on the surface of the Northern King's body to become even brighter. Its body also became even more plump. This puppet actually has the ability to absorb lightning energy. No wonder Xiao Yan is so confident. Luo Xiong's old face was filled with shock as he watched the scene in front of him. It was a long while later before he recovered. He still found it hard to believe what had happened in front of him. What kind of puppet could actually absorb the power of the pill lightning for its own use? In that case, the alchemists on the continent no longer had to fear the pill lightning. Luo Xiong thought in his heart, but he did not understand why the Northern King was able to absorb the pill lightning in such an unbridled manner. Other than its special refining method, it was a huge exception. How could a human body compare to a puppet refined from the dragon clan? If it was an ordinary puppet, it would have exploded into pieces under the pill lightning's attack. In the sky, the Northern King did not retreat in the slightest in the face of the pill lightning. No matter how powerful the lightning strike was, when it landed on his body, it was like duckweed that had fallen into water. This caused the people watching by the side to be extremely shocked. The earth-shattering lightning continuously collided with the majestic and unmoving body. Two rays of light rapidly flashed past, and waves of shocking energy ripples spread out in the sky. Sharp sonic booms and the sound of energy explosions continued to resound for a long time. On the stone platform below, Xiao Yan had finally consumed the spirit-casting pill in his hand. As a surge of medicinal strength spread throughout his limbs, a warm aura climbed onto Xiao Yan's soul. The instant the lid of the medicinal cauldron was opened, Xiao Yan opened his mouth. A suction force surged out and swallowed the cluster of invisible flames that were about to burst into his body. Bang! A rumbling sound once again sounded in the sky. At the same time, a muffled explosion sounded from within Xiao Yan's body. The invisible flames swept out in an unbridled manner, as though they wanted to incinerate Xiao Yan's entire body. However, the medicinal strength of the spirit-casting pill quickly took effect. Chapter 1354. Following the eruption of the pill lightning back then, an entire 3 months had passed. During this period of time, Xiao Yan's figure had been sitting cross-legged in front of the medicinal cauldron with his eyes tightly shut. He stood there like a stone statue. Waves after waves of suction force surged out from within his body, continuously absorbing the surrounding natural strength into his body. Perhaps it was because of the casting spirit pill or because Xiao Yan had subdued the fallen heart flame earlier, but the swallowing and refining this time around was actually much smoother than before. Although the heavenly flame was strong, it seemed to possess a kind of unique affinity with Xiao Yan. This time around, regardless of whether it was the refining speed or swallowing, it was actually much easier. This caused Xiao Yan to no longer need to worry about his little life. Of course, despite this, Xiao Yan did not dare to be unbridled during this entire process. After all, it was a heavenly flame, and its strength could not be underestimated. Although everything was going smoothly, if he was careless and lost his way, it was likely that he would bring about an irreversible result. Fortunately, Xiao Yan was originally a cautious person. Even when faced with such a situation, he was still able to guard his heart. This also caused the entire process to be much more stable and calm. With the eyesight of Luo Xiong's group, they were more or less able to see this condition of Xiao Yan. Although they were a little surprised at the way Xiao Yan was refining the heavenly flame at this moment, they were naturally a little more at ease since everything was fine. After being aware that he was in the midst of a breakthrough, the large area where the sky array stage was located was forcefully isolated. Other than by Hua's group, no one was allowed to easily approach it. Since he was in the critical period of his breakthrough, if Xiao Yan was disturbed by the outside world at this moment, the loss would be quite great. Moreover, he was swallowing the heavenly flame. If he were to lose control of the heavenly flame, it would be an extremely great harm to both Xiao Yan and the heavenly cloud villa. Although some of the ordinary disciples from the villa were also curious about this, they could only bitterly withdraw under the strict supervision of the various elders. Numerous gazes looked towards the center of the distant sky array stage and the blurry black-robed human figure. Many people's faces revealed a trace of respect. At this age, he was not much different from some of the younger generation in the villa. However, in comparison, the level that the former had reached was not inferior to some of the elders in the villa. When they thought of this, the respect in the eyes of the disciples from the villa involuntarily became a little denser. Xiao Yan's achievement was worthy of their respect. Under the attention of countless gazes, Xiao Yan, who was on the stone platform, was completely immersed in refining the heavenly flame in his body. It was as if he had completely lost his perception of the outside world. As the heavenly flame in his body was frantically refined, waves of natural energy also moved around him. In the outside world, Luo Xiong and the rest could not help but be secretly shocked when they saw this scene. With their keen senses, they discovered that Xiao Yan's aura was rapidly becoming stronger as the natural energy continued to gather. As a result, he had already reached the peak of the Origin King level. He was only a step away from the Origin Zone level. Under the azure sky, there were no clouds for thousands of miles. It was a clear sky. Bai Hua stood in the air. She was dressed in white and her expression was calm. When a cool breeze blew over, her sleeves fluttered and rose with the wind, causing many people in the villa to cast their gazes over. In particular, when some of the girls saw the latter's elegant and otherworldly appearance, they were extremely moved. Ignoring the chaotic gazes, Bai Hua's gaze stared straight at the stone platform below. Her brows were slightly furrowed, and there was some worry on her face. Due to the isolation of the formation barrier, even he was unable to clearly see the situation within. However, he could sense that the current Xiao Yan was wildly absorbing the surging natural energy around him. This might not be a bad thing, but this matter was ultimately related to the heavenly flame. Thus, he did not dare to carelessly relax. Thinking back, Xiao Yan had gone to search for the karmic fire of the Red Lotus for 3 years. However, in a short 3 months, Xiao Yan had already reached such a level. It was unavoidable for him to be worried. It would be great if Senior Long Lin was still here, Bai Hua sighed helplessly. Long Lin and Xiao Jin had been summoned back by the Dragon Clan 2 months ago. It was no longer possible to use Long Lin's cultivation to investigate Xiao Yan's situation. With a bitter laugh, Bai Hua slowly turned around and was about to leave. However, just as she turned around, a terrifying energy explosion suddenly came from the stone platform. Bai Hua abruptly turned around, her expression rapidly changing. Her eyes abruptly turned to look at the stone platform with a worried expression. The Genesis Qi in her body was already circulating. If the situation turned bad, she would immediately rush over to save Zhou Yuan. Is it over? Luo Cheng and the others hurriedly flew over. Just as the words left their mouths, Bai Hua shook her head with a solemn expression. No, it has just begun. Bang! A human figure slowly stood up from the stone platform below the moment Xiao Yan's voice sounded. Circular intense energy ripples spread from Xiao Yan's body. It was just like a storm that caused the surrounding empty space to become distorted. Even the stone platform under his feet trembled. Invisible and visible purple flames wildly lingered around his body. The natural energy also became violent because of it. At the same time, the aura spreading from Xiao Yan's body began to rapidly rise, bzz. Suddenly, a frightening aura suddenly swept over. The expressions of quite a number of elders present instantly changed. At this moment, Xiao Yan's cultivation had already stepped into the Yuan Zone class. From a 5-star Origin Emperor to a Genesis Ancestor in 3 months, this was truly shocking news. However, this was not the end. Even though his cultivation had already broken through, the aura in Xiao Yan's body continued to rapidly rise. From the looks of it, he had no intention of stopping. His momentum was already heading straight for a 2-star Genesis Ancestor. Such a scene shocked many people even more. Stepping from a 5-star Origin Emperor to a Genesis Ancestor in 3 months was already shocking enough. If he broke through to a 2-star Genesis Ancestor at this moment, wouldn't this be unprecedented? Under everyone's gazes, Xiao Yan's aura rapidly rose. In a short few minutes, he had already reached the advanced and peak 1-star Genesis Ancestor level. Only now did the rapidly rising aura in his body gradually slow down, return. However, it was also at this moment that Xiao Yan suddenly raised his head. His arms shook as he spread open his fingers. A suction force instantly erupted from his palms, sucking the 2 heavenly flames around him into his body and perfectly fusing them together. When the 2 heavenly flames completely fused together, the enormous energy that was produced caused Xiao Yan's cultivation to rise once again, even to the point of breaking through. Genesis Ancestor, 2-star. Chapter 1355. On the sky array platform, the energy ripples that swept out gradually dissipated. Only then did Xiao Yan's figure slowly appear in front of everyone. He was dressed in a black robe and his figure was skinny. His posture looked much messier than a few months ago. However, the aura around his body was exceptionally vigorous. His eyes that had been tightly shut for several months slowly opened. At this moment, a bright flame flashed in the depths of his pitch-black eyes. Even the space in front of him distorted slightly. The aura in his body also stirred. However, it only lasted for a short moment before it was quickly retracted back into his body. After all, he had just broken through and his aura was not stable. Everything still needed time to be polished. If he revealed too much at this moment, it would not be a good thing. When Xiao Yan raised his head, he was somewhat stunned to see that quite a number of people had already gathered around the sky array stage. Other than the upper echelons of the Heavenly Cloud Villa, there were also quite a number of disciples from the Luo clan. Clearly, the sudden unexpected change had indeed attracted the attention of quite a number of people. The powerful aura that Xiao Yan had displayed earlier had likely been completely absorbed by these people. Waves of noisy uproars also sounded. Hiss. I seem to have only felt that aura and pressure from a few elders of the villa before. Source Zone. How is this possible? He just broke through to the 5-star Origin Emperor 3 months ago. It's impossible for him to break through again in such a short period of time. Moreover, he has broken through to the Source Zone level? But how do you explain that aura and pressure just now? For a moment, the crowd was in an uproar. Voices of debate rang out continuously. The elders of the villa could not be bothered with them. They all cast their gazes on Xiao Yan. The surprise in their eyes was especially intense. They also found it hard to believe that Xiao Yan's cultivation could actually increase so much in a short half a year. Compared to these old bones, Xiao Yan's performance could be said to be terrifying. Xiao Yan did not care about the uproar from the disciples of the Luo clan. He moved his body slightly and casually clenched his right hand. He could not help but grin as he felt the powerful energy in his body that was more than a few times stronger than a few months ago. Now, he had finally surpassed the Origin Emperor level and successfully advanced to the Source Zone level. Xiao Yan inhaled a deep breath of air. His eyelids were slightly lowered. A certain killing intent flashed across his eyes. Immediately, he turned his head to look at the southern sky. The distant sky was still clear for tens of thousands of kilometers. Although he could not see anything, Xiao Yan's eyes faintly reflected a clear and handsome face. Crossing Disaster Sect, Xiao Yan's gaze was somewhat absent-minded as he stared at the southern sky. His mouth softly muttered. It was a long while later before he gradually recovered. In the blink of an eye, Bai Hua, Luo Xiong and the others had already arrived in front of him. I'm sorry for making everyone worry. Seeing Luo Xiong and the rest, Xiao Yan gathered his emotions and cupped his fists apologetically. He had already sensed the arrangements outside the sky array platform when he broke through. However, the situation was special at that time and he was unable to inform them. Hearing this, Luo Xiong and the rest smiled in an unconcerned manner and waved their hands to indicate that it was fine. To the side, Luo Jin stepped forward and looked Xiao Yan up and down with a smile. He could not help but sigh and shake his head as he laughed. You're really terrifying. Back then, my cultivation was a bit higher than yours, but I didn't expect that you would leave me far behind now. I only borrowed external power. Without it, how could my cultivation have risen so quickly? Hearing this, Xiao Yan shook his head and said modestly. Luo Jin and the few upper echelons of the Luo clan present were non-committal in the face of this. Although Xiao Yan's words were true, their Heavenly Cloud Villa was not lacking in terms of training resources. Being one of the top factions in the middle region, there was naturally no need to mention its foundation. Putting aside his own talent, Luo Jin was able to possess the strength of a Yuan king at such a young age. Naturally, he did not lack the help of various training resources from the villa. Even though this was the case, he was still lacking when compared to Xiao Yan. After a simple conversation, Xiao Yan's following words caused the few people present to frown slightly. "You're leaving?" Xiao Yan nodded and cupped his fists. "I've caused a lot of trouble for everyone during my days in Heavenly Cloud Villa. I'm really sorry. Moreover, I came to the central region with another purpose, so it's not convenient for me to stay for long. Therefore, I hope everyone can understand. If I have time in the future, I will definitely come to the villa again to visit." Since that's the case, we won't force you to stay. However, as long as you can come in the future, my Heavenly Cloud Villa will definitely welcome you. Luo Cheng smiled faintly. The remaining elders around him also nodded their heads heavily when the words in his mouth sounded. Soon after, Xiao Yan's gaze turned as he hesitantly said, "There's one more thing, little fairy doctor. Let me take care of her. With me around, no one will get close to her." Without waiting for Xiao Yan's words to fall, a slightly cold voice suddenly sounded from the side. Xiao Yan turned his head and saw that it was Li Bingrui. When the latter stepped forward, Luo Jin hurriedly accompanied her with a smile on his face. This caused Luo Cheng and the others to smile bitterly. Their young master was usually arrogant, but in front of Li Bingrui, he was actually so docile and obedient. He was simply like a clingy little kitten. In this regard, Xiao Yan smiled slightly. Then, his gaze returned to Li Bingrui's body and he said in surprise, "You plan to stay?" Li Bingrui's gaze paused and stopped on Xiao Yan. After looking at him for a moment, she said, "I don't know how much trouble you will encounter when you leave this time. I don't want to die. With little fairy doctor here, I believe that you won't never come again. Therefore, it won't be too late to kill you in the future." Li Bingrui's beautiful eyes flickered slightly when she said this. Then, she frowned and looked at Luo Jin, who was approaching from the side. She gave him a fierce glare and pushed the latter out. The Luo family members immediately smiled bitterly and shook their heads. Xiao Yan's heart felt a little warm. He could naturally tell how much truth there was in her words. Since she was here, he could more or less be at ease with little fairy doctor. "Little friend Xiao Yan, when will you get up?" Xiao Yan smiled slightly when he heard this. His gaze turned towards the northeastern sky. The Xiao clan was located there. For some unknown reason, a burning and impatient emotion suddenly emerged in his heart. He seemed to be looking forward to the so-called Xiao clan and Xiao Xian, whom he had not seen for many years. We will leave tomorrow. Chapter 1356. The next day, Xiao Yan's group, along with the head of the Luo clan Luo Cheng and a few elders, as well as Luo Jin and the rest, were all present on a distant mountain in the northeastern direction of the Heavenly Cloud Villa. "Let's stop here. With such a long distance, I believe that the Daoist sect will not trouble themselves to send people to follow us." Luo Cheng smiled as he looked at Xiao Yan's group in front of him. He sighed softly and said. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan and the rest nodded. They cupped their hands towards the few people in front of them and said, "Thank you, Elder, for escorting us. Given your current strength, it will naturally not be a problem for you to leave this place safely. We are only worried about that bastard Wudu from the Daoist sect. As long as he follows us, the rest of the journey will be much more stable." Luo Cheng laughed softly. At the same time, he flipped his hand and took out an array disc from his storage ring. He handed it to Xiao Yan. "Take it. This is a rank 7 array disc. Consider it a token of appreciation from my Heavenly Cloud Villa. If you meet any danger, as long as you open it, although I don't dare to say that it will protect your life, no one below the Origin Venerate level will be able to easily break it. Even an Origin Venerate expert, in short, it is best to be more careful and try not to provoke that kind of expert. Luo Cheng suddenly paused halfway through his words. Only then did he change his words. Xiao Yan naturally understood Luo Cheng's meaning. He immediately smiled and nodded. After receiving the array disc from the other party's hand and keeping it properly, his gaze swept over everyone in front of him. After which, he led the two people beside him and respectfully bowed. Immediately, he turned around and walked towards the northeastern direction. Behind them, Luo Jin looked at the backs of the three people as they left. He could not help but feel a lump in his throat. He was just about to open his mouth to say something when Luo Ao by the side slapped his head and scolded with a smile. "You little brat, we are all in the middle region. It is not like we are going to part forever. Why are you acting so miserable?" Seeing this, the remaining people present could not resist laughing out loud. At the same time, the little fairy doctor, who was quietly lying in an ice coffin within a secret room within the Heavenly Cloud Villa, suddenly bent her ice-cold hands that were covered by a long dress in a manner that could not be detected. Within the interior of the secret room, threads of strange energy that could not be detected slowly gathered towards this ice-cold lovely body that had already lost its aura. This slow speed was such that even if Luo Xiong was here, he would not be able to detect it. In the blink of an eye, it had been over a month since Xiao Yan's group had left the Heavenly Cloud Villa. The size of the middle region had exceeded their imagination. Although they had traveled a great distance with the help of the teleportation formations in a couple of cities, the three of them were still quite a distance away from the Xiao clan at this moment. The Xiao clan is in the northeastern part of the central region. Based on our current speed, we will be able to reach the Xiao city where the Xiao clan is located in around a week's time. Bai Hua glanced at the map in her hand as a helpless expression appeared on her face. Even in this week's time, they still had to use the teleportation array twice to reach their destination. With such a long distance, even with his temperament, it was somewhat difficult for them to travel such a long distance. Xiao Yan could only bitterly smile and shake his head in the face of this. Based on what he knew, other than the border region where the four large factions were located, there were large teleportation formations all over the middle region. These teleportation formations could easily teleport them to the city they wanted to go to. However, the problem they were currently facing was that based on the map, there were no cities with large teleportation formations around their current location. The closest large teleportation formation to them just so happened to be the main city of the Ouyang clan, St. Gold City. Being one of the three large clans in the middle region, the strength of the Ouyang clan naturally could not be underestimated. In order to avoid some unnecessary trouble, they could only eliminate this option. Hence, it was likely that they could only follow their current plan and travel for another week. Of course, it was still alright for Xiao Yan and Bai Hua. However, it was likely that Lien Er would have to suffer during this journey. Lass, it has been hard on you during these few days. Once we reach the place, I will definitely let you have a good rest. Even the two of them were gradually unable to endure such a long journey, let alone Lien Er, whose cultivation had not even reached King Yuan's. Lien Er gently rubbed the latter's exquisite little head and nodded with some hidden bitterness. After which, she landed on Bai Hua's shoulder and pouted her little mouth. Her face was filled with laziness. Upon seeing this, the two of them could only smile tenderly. Soon after, they decided to temporarily rest in the mountain forest below. After which, the three of them leaped down. However, just as they moved, Xiao Yan suddenly stopped. He frowned and looked at a mountain forest not far away. His eyes were filled with surprise. What's wrong? With Bai Hua's cultivation, she was naturally able to clearly sense that there were many people fighting in the mountain forest not far away. However, such things happened every moment in the continent. Hence, they naturally did not need to pay attention to it. However, since it was able to cause Xiao Yan to stop, it was likely that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Xiao Yan did not answer Bai Hua's question. Instead, his gaze was fixed on the mountain forest not far away. His spiritual strength involuntarily spread out. The situation of the battle was also reflected in his eyes. In the mountain forest, a group of middle-aged men wearing black brocade clothes were surrounding a few people wearing blue robes. Other than two middle-aged men, the rest of the people were of the younger generation. Hee, let's see where you can escape to. Among the black-clothed people, a middle-aged man with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks was standing in the air. He looked down at the group of people who were currently in a miserable state and laughed sinisterly. Every escape route had been sealed and the group of people had nowhere to retreat. Looking at the group of black-clothed people in front of them, the few young people in the group could not help but feel completely disheartened. They did not expect that they would actually face such a situation when they came out this time. Everyone, hold on a little longer. The news has already spread. As long as the reinforcements arrive, this group of bastards, together with the families behind them, will definitely pay the price. Among the few people, a young man with a stable aura clenched his teeth and encouraged the people behind him. Only then did he return his gaze back to the black-clothed people within his sight. His face was filled with cold murderous intent. He, I'm afraid that you won't be able to wait until then. The strange laughter rang out once again. The aura of the group of black-clothed people also began to spread outwards, enveloping this part of the mountain forest. Waves of cold murderous intent caused many young girls in the battle circle to cry out in alarm. Zhao Ming, if anything happens to us, your Zhao family will definitely pay the price. In the group of people, the young man who had spoken earlier coldly shouted once again. When the latter heard this, he immediately sneered and said with a cold smile, "You're still trying to stall for time at such a time? Attack, don't leave a single one alive." As his laughter rang out, the other black-clothed people in the surroundings immediately roared and released the powerful Genesis Chi in their bodies. The combined aura of more than a dozen Genesis King experts could only be described as terrifying. At the same time, the expressions of the people in the encirclement changed. The two middle-aged men in the lead exchanged a look and nodded in unison. With a thought, the remaining Genesis Chi in their bodies frantically gushed out without reservation. At the same time, the two men swiftly raised their hands to their chests and rapidly formed seals. The seals linked together, and the power gathered in their palms rapidly grew stronger as the seals rapidly changed. It was the special seal that these two people had formed in their hands that caused Xiao Yan to raise his eyes. There was no other reason other than that the seal was the secret technique of the Gu clan that he had practiced, the God Seal skill. Chapter 1357. That is, the Emperor Seal Art? In the sky, Xiao Yan's expression abruptly changed as he involuntarily let out a cry of surprise. The Emperor Seal Art was a secret technique of the Gu clan that originated from the Doqi continent. Why would he see it here? Emperor Seal Art? By the side, the expression on Bai Hua's face involuntarily froze when she heard Xiao Yan's words. She quickly recovered and said with a surprised expression, "Isn't it a secret technique of the Gu clan? Isn't that the ancient race's Do technique? Why would it appear here? Could I have seen wrongly? It can't be wrong. The Emperor Seal Art they are using is exactly the same as the Emperor Seal Art that I practice. However, the Emperor Seal Art that they practice seems to be a little more special." Xiao Yan could not help but be a little surprised when he reached the end of his sentence. The Emperor Seal Art was a secret technique of the Doqi continent's Gu clan and was divided into 5 seals. However, from what he could sense, the two individuals using the Emperor Seal Art in the mountain forest seemed to have formed many more seals. Emperor Seal Art, Universe Seal. In the mountain forest, 2 middle-aged men roared in unison in the battle circle surrounded by a group of black-robed men. They formed a seal with their hands and pushed them forward. At the same time, the surging energy contained in their palms rapidly condensed into 2 giant Genesis Chi handprints in front of them, and ruthlessly blasted towards Zhao Ming and the others opposite them. Humph, Emperor Seal Art A grave expression involuntarily appeared on Zhao Ming's face when he saw the enormous energy hand that was charging towards him. His Zhao clan was naturally well aware of the reputation of this God Seal skill. Their two clans had fought for so many years, and an unknown number of experts from their clans had died under this God Seal skill. Now that he had personally witnessed it today, he naturally did not dare to underestimate it. Attack together and finish them off. With a shout, Zhao Ming immediately waved his arm. He clenched his hand tightly and a silver spear that flickered with lightning landed in his hand. With a thought, surging Genesis Chi immediately poured into the spear before it was suddenly thrust forward. Thunder immediately rumbled in everyone's ears as numerous lightning snakes furiously charged towards the people in the middle. Heavenly Lightning Spear, Lightning Snake Dance. In the next moment, the attacks of a group of black-clothed men came crashing down from different directions. In the blink of an eye, the long spear in Zhao Ming's hand, as well as the attacks of the few people beside him, collided fiercely with the two huge handprints. As for the attacks of the others, they were naturally blocked by the young generation behind the two middle-aged men. Boom! A series of muffled explosions abruptly rang out. While energy swept across the mountain forest, the group of men in black outside were blasted back several dozen feet. The two middle-aged men's faces were deathly pale from the energy shockwaves. They had already experienced several battles, and coupled with the intense consumption earlier, there was very little Genesis Chi left in their bodies. Although this was the case, the fact that the two of them were able to push back the dozen or so black-clothed men was enough to see how powerful the handprints were. When the storm dissipated, a large area around the battle circle had been razed to the ground by the storm. Countless towering ancient trees were cut in half or even shattered into pieces. Even the ground had a thick layer of mud and sand lifted up, forming a huge pit where everyone was standing. It is indeed a secret technique of the ancient race. Its power is indeed extraordinary. This is only the 7th seal. If the two of you can use the 8th seal, the seals will be linked and it is said to be comparable to a saint-class Do skill. The surprise in Zhao Mian's eyes grew as he gazed at the huge pit below his feet. At the same time, a strange splendor emerged in his eyes. If his Zhao clan could obtain the Emperor Seal art, he believed that their overall strength would definitely rise. If the two of us were able to use the 8th seal, do you think you would still be standing here? A middle-aged man took a step forward. His face was filled with disdain as he sneered in a low voice. Although I don't like to hear these words, you are right. I am indeed unable to withstand the 8th seal of the Emperor Seal art, but the two of you will similarly not have any possibility of increasing your strength, with the exception of the storage ring. Clean up the rest. Zhao Ming laughed coldly. When his voice sounded, the 10+ black-clothed people immediately responded. After which, they once again charged forward. In the blink of an eye, they had already arrived in front of those young men and women. Seeing this, the expressions of the two middle-aged men changed. They hurriedly turned around and pounced towards those black-clothed people. If you want to save them, you should first take care of yourselves. However, it was at this moment that Zhao Ming's figure appeared in front of the two men like a ghost. With a flip of his hands, Genesis Chi surged from his palms as he slammed his palms into the two middle-aged men's chests. Ugh! Blood instantly sprayed out as the two figures were sent flying uncontrollably. They heavily smashed into the ground below. The Genesis Chi in their bodies had completely scattered, and their auras had fallen to rock bottom. They were clearly seriously injured. I'll let you see with your own eyes how your clansmen die. Zhao Ming looked down from above at the two men who were unable to move. He did not even turn his head as he listened to the muffled sounds of collisions behind him. The iciness from the corners of his mouth widened. It was only at a certain moment when several figures fell to the ground that he was astonished to find that they were all dressed in black. They had lost all signs of life the moment they hit the ground. From the looks of it, they had been killed with a single blow. What's going on? Zhao Ming's expression instantly changed drastically. As he turned around, he suddenly saw a face that was extremely close to him. Immediately, the pupils in his eyes shrunk to the size of a needle tip. His body had just retreated when a warm hand quietly landed on his throat. After which, with a gentle pinch, Zhao Ming's body was lifted up in an easy and natural manner. "My lord," crack. However, just as Zhao Ming was about to beg for mercy, Xiao Yan gently swung his wrist in front of him. Zhao Ming's neck was broken. The life force that covered his eyes swiftly disappeared like floodwater. Xiao Yan carelessly tossed Zhao Ming's body aside. Only then did he turn around with a curious face and look at the group of young people. Only at this moment did this group of young people clearly see the appearance of the person who had attacked in front of them. Immediately, everyone felt even more shocked in their hearts. In terms of appearance alone, the Xiao Yan in front of them did not appear to be much different from them. However, he was able to kill over 10 Yuan King-class experts within a short couple of breaths. From what they knew, it was likely that only the heir of the Ouyang clan could be so powerful within the younger generation. "Who are you people? Why do you have the Emperor Seal art?" Xiao Yan's sudden question caused all the young people present to be stunned. They were even unable to recover. According to common sense, they should be the ones asking an outsider such a question. Cough cough. "Sir, could it be that you are here for the Emperor Seal art of my Gu clan?" At this moment, the two middle-aged men in the pit below finally supported each other and once again climbed up. When they heard Xiao Yan's words, their faces immediately revealed a cautious expression. From the looks of it, it was likely that they had not met any so-called good people. Hearing this, Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows and could not help but exclaim softly. "Gu clan." Chapter 1358. All of you are members of the Gu clan. Xiao Yan's surprised voice reverberated in the air above the mountain forest. The emotions in his heart also began to fluctuate. Hearing this, the members of the Gu clan involuntarily curled their lips. The God Seal skill was a skill of the Gu clan that was not passed down to outsiders. Quite a number of people in the middle region knew about it. How could this be anything new? While they were thinking in this way, many of them looked at Xiao Yan as though they were looking at a fool. Xiao Yan ignored this. Instead, he descended into a short period of deep thought. Soon after, he understood that this was definitely left behind by an expert from the Gu clan after returning to the clan after coming to the Yuanwu continent. After all, even he was able to meet members of the Gu clan in this foreign world. As one of the 8 ancient clans of the Douqi continent, it was not impossible for the Gu clan to do the same. Thinking in this way, everything naturally made sense. On this continent, the only people who can grasp the God Seal skill are members of the Gu clan. Do you not believe me? On the ground below, the two middle-aged men exchanged glances with each other. Both of them felt doubtful about Xiao Yan's words. The latter seemed to be a little surprised by their identities. "It is not that I do not believe you. It is just that I did not expect to see the God Seal skill here." Xiao Yan shook his head when he heard this. He laughed softly. After hesitating for a moment, his gaze once again looked at the two middle-aged men. Under the doubtful gazes of the two, he slowly raised both of his hands. His 10 fingers moved together and numerous familiar seals were formed as his fingertips moved. When the two of them saw the familiar seals in Xiao Yan's hands, the expressions on their faces gradually solidified. "This is, Open Mountain Seal, Overturn the Sea. Overturn the Earth. Cover the Sky. Ancient God Seal." 5 special seals were formed in succession by Xiao Yan's hands. Waves of powerful energy also gathered in front of him. Finally, it turned into a huge golden handprint that was suspended in the empty space in front of Xiao Yan. As the light on it flickered, an extremely terrifying energy aura spread out from it. The faces of all the members of the Gu clan present involuntarily revealed a shocked expression when this hand seal was formed. This was especially the case for the two middle-aged men. Their originally pale faces were so shocked by this hand seal that they were completely drained of blood. Both of their eyes stared at the action of Xiao Yan's hand. It was as though they were afraid that Xiao Yan would form the sixth seal. Fortunately, the seals on Xiao Yan's hands completely stopped at the fifth seal. Even so, their hearts were still incomparably shocked. "You! Your Excellency, who exactly are you? How did you manage to grasp the ancient race's imperial seal art?" The eyes of the two middle-aged men were extremely grave as they stared at Xiao Yan in the empty space. Under the deterrence of the handprint, even their voices were trembling. The fifth seal had been formed. If this black-robed young man was really aiming for the remaining three seals, the two of them would have already become his targets. Once the handprint landed, given their current condition, it was likely that they would not even have the possibility to block it. When he saw the grave expressions on the faces of the two, Xiao Yan smiled faintly. He casually removed the handprint in front of him and said in an indifferent voice, "Don't worry. Don't worry, I won't harm you. If I really had any plans, you wouldn't continue to stand here. As for this imperial seal technique, it was given to me by the most important person to me. Now that your troubles have been resolved, you can all leave." After saying these words, Xiao Yan's eyes carried a somewhat complicated expression as he turned around. He was about to walk towards the location of Baihua's group. However, just as he lifted his foot, his body suddenly paused in the next moment. The instant he turned his head, he met with a dense gaze. Looking over, at the east of Xiao Yan, there was a handsome young man wearing white robes. He was staring at him with a smile that was not a smile. His eyes contained coldness, surprise, and joy. In short, it was a complicated expression. Looking at the white-robed young man opposite him, the expression on Xiao Yan's face could not help but be slightly startled. Looking at the other party's somewhat familiar face, Xiao Yan's mind immediately began to swiftly search. Soon after, a pair of pitch-black eyes suddenly flashed. After which, he suddenly raised his head and stared at the white-robed young man. His tone was a little surprised as he said, "It's you. Haha, Xiao Yan. Back then, during the battle in the Northern Sea, I told you that we would meet again sooner or later. I never imagined that it would really come true today." Seeing that Xiao Yan had thought of him, the young man curled his lips and smiled. His body trembled slightly and in the blink of an eye, he had already arrived near Xiao Yan. The two of them looked at each other and the various events that had occurred back then once again appeared before their eyes. "Shui Miao." Xiao Yan's eyes hardened slightly as he spoke in a deep voice. The white-robed young man in front of him was the opponent that Xiao Yan had encountered when he had first arrived at Beihai College. He was also the publicly acknowledged #1 person in Beihai College, Shui Miao. After not seeing him for so many years, this fellow's strength was much stronger than before. Just from that attack just now, it was likely that Shui Miao's cultivation was not below the current him. He was also a genuine origin sect expert. Back then, your cultivation was merely a do-di. Now, you have actually stepped into the origin sect. Shui Miao's eyes swept across Xiao Yan's body as he lowered his eyelids slightly. Although his tone was somewhat mocking, it was unable to completely conceal the astonishment in his heart. Ever since he had left Beihai College, he had directly returned to the central region and had been wholeheartedly training. Coupled with the many cultivation resources from his clan, he had only managed to attain the cultivation of a 4-star origin sect. However, he had never imagined that Xiao Yan would actually be able to reach such a level without the support of any faction. He could truly be described as terrifying. Xiao Yan smiled in a noncommittal manner when he heard this. However, he did not say anything. It was also at this moment that the two middle-aged men below once again stepped into the air. They arrived beside Shui Miao and bowed respectfully. With the aid of medicinal pills, the injuries in their bodies had been temporarily suppressed. However, they could not help but feel somewhat astonished when they heard that Xiao Yan and Shui Miao were so familiar with each other. "Young Master Ouyang, do you know this person?" "Ah, we don't just know each other. Back then, I was defeated by him in Beihai College." Shui Miao smiled indifferently. He raised his chin and pointed at Xiao Yan as a stern expression once again surfaced in his eyes. The moment these words were spoken, the two middle-aged men and the rest of the younger generation of the ancient clan immediately inhaled a breath of cold air. Shock was revealed on their faces. They had long since heard about that battle. It was rumored that Shui Miao had been defeated by someone from the same generation, whose cultivation was much weaker than his. That battle back then had also stirred a commotion within their clan. It was unexpected that this was actually true. Immediately, shock involuntarily surged into the eyes of quite a number of people when they looked at Xiao Yan. At the same time, when Xiao Yan heard the middle-aged man's address of Shui Miao, he could not help but raise his eyebrows slightly. He could not help but ask with a surprised expression. Ouyang? You're from the Ouyang clan. Huh, Shui Miao is my name in Beihai College. My real name is Ouyang Miao. Ouyang Miao nodded slightly and did not hide anything. However, Xiao Yan was quite surprised in his heart. After a slight hesitation, he continued. Then, young master, my father is the patriarch of the Ouyang clan. Chapter 1359. Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows slightly when Ouyang Miao said this. Although he already had a guess in his heart, he could not help but find it hard to believe when Ouyang Miao personally said it. I still have to thank you for what happened just now. Although Ouyang Miao was a somewhat aloof person, he was still able to distinguish between people and matters. When he saw the black-clothed people below who had already lost their breath, he already understood what had happened just now. Immediately, he cupped his hands together politely to Xiao Yan. Behind him, the two middle-aged men and the younger generation of the Gu clan hurriedly bowed respectfully to Xiao Yan when they saw this. It's fine. I only acted because I saw the Emperor Seal technique. If you want to thank someone, you should thank the elder who created the Emperor Seal technique. Xiao Yan nodded his head and pursed his lips into a smile as he said. The expressions of the members of the Gu clan present were immediately startled when they heard this. Their hearts were a little stunned. However, they quickly recovered and smiled while feeling fortunate. After all, Xiao Yan also possessed the God Seal skill in his hand. Perhaps it was because of this relationship that he would intervene. Although Ouyang Miao was somewhat puzzled by this, the expression on his face became much warmer. Speaking of which, he and Xiao Yan could be considered old acquaintances. Although they were opponents, the friendship between them was not inferior to some friends. In addition, Xiao Yan had saved the Gu clan members. Naturally, his attitude had changed quite a bit. At this moment, Bai Hua and Lian also quickly flew over from afar. When the two of them saw that Xiao Yan had not returned for a long time, they discovered the strange situation with a glance. Immediately, the two of them could not help but become slightly nervous. Only when they arrived in front of everyone and saw the respectful attitude of the Gu clan members towards Xiao Yan did they slowly relax. It seems that you are not alone. Where are you going? Ouyang Miao's gaze paused on Bai Hua and Lian. A slight surprise flashed across his eyes. Soon after, he asked Xiao Yan with a smile. The latter hesitated for a moment. In his heart, he recalled that the Ouyang clan had a large teleportation array. Immediately, he could not help but be tempted. Xiao Cheng. Ouyang Miao's expression remained normal after hearing those words. On the other hand, the expressions of the people from the Gu clan changed instantly. They revealed expressions of surprise as they involuntarily looked at the corpses of the black-clothed people below. Their gazes swept back and forth between the two corpses as a ripple involuntarily rose in their hearts. If that's the case, it will take at least a week to reach Shao City from here. How about this? There is a teleportation formation in the Saint Gold City of the Ouyang family. Although it can't reach Shao City directly, it can save you a lot of time. Why don't you go there? Ouyang Miao's gaze slowly swept across the three people in front of him before finally stopping on Xiao Yan. A glint flashed across his eyes as he spoke with a rather cordial smile. Although Xiao Yan spoke in this manner, he was able to clearly see the heated fighting intent in Ouyang Miao's eyes. His heart immediately felt a little fiery hot. His heart also possessed an endless curiosity toward this fellow in front of him. After not meeting for so many years, he did not know just what level Ouyang Miao had reached. Moreover, Xiao Yan's current cultivation had just broken through. It would be quite a good choice if he could find an opponent of similar strength to test himself at this moment. Moreover, if it were not for Brother Zhao's help today, I'm afraid that they would not have survived. We should express our gratitude. Moreover, you and I have known each other for many years. Brother Xiao, with a change in tone, Ouyang Miao's way of addressing Xiao Yan immediately changed. This also caused the distance between the two to become closer. Of course, Xiao Yan scoffed at the so-called old friendship in his words. Back then, he had only fought with Ouyang Miao once in Beihai College. After that, they had never met again. How could there be any friendship between them? However, before Ouyang Miao could finish speaking, Ouyang Miao nodded with a smile and cupped his hands together. All right, since Brother Ouyang has invited me so kindly, I will not be polite. Suddenly, the two people on the scene burst into laughter. However, it was unknown whether they were sincere or not. After laughing, Ouyang Miao seemed to have thought of something. He turned his gaze and looked at the corpses below. The expression on his face once again returned to its usual calm and arrogant state. A cold glint flashed across his eyes as he asked in a deep voice, "Do you know who these people are?" The expressions of the two middle-aged men from the Gu clan by the side were slightly startled. Their expressions were a little strange as they looked at Xiao Yan. Only then did they hurriedly reply respectfully. "Prince, they are from the Zhao clan of Liang City." Noticing the strange gazes in the eyes of the ancient clan members, Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows slightly. He could not help but feel a little suspicious in his heart. Liang City, a subordinate of the Xiao clan. Over the years, the Zhao clan has become more and more arrogant. They actually dare to openly kill people from my Ouyang clan. A dark coldness immediately surfaced on Ouyang Miao's face when he heard this. He immediately inhaled a deep breath of air. The moment he turned his head, his gaze collided with Xiao Yan's. Immediately, he involuntarily knit his brows. A doubt rose in his heart, but he did not say anything. When Ouyang Miao heard that the group of black-clothed people belonged to a subordinate force of the Xiao clan, a look of surprise flashed across his originally smiling face. He did not expect such a thing to happen before he had even arrived at the Xiao clan. It was no wonder that they had such a look in their eyes when they looked at him earlier. "Prince, the Zhao clan did not send more than 10 source kings to kill us on impulse." Perhaps this matter, the two middle-aged men looked at Xiao Yan meaningfully. However, before they could finish their words, they were stopped by Ouyang Miao's gaze. He then reprimanded in a deep voice, "Enough. Since we know who did it, I will naturally seek an explanation from them. As for the rest, I will deal with it myself." Ouyang Miao naturally understood what they meant. Since the group of black-clothed people were from the Xiao clan and had been killed by Xiao Yan, who had the surname Xiao, there was no doubt that they had other intentions. However, Ouyang Miao was much clearer about the origins of Xiao Yan and the others. Naturally, he would not easily believe that they were from the Xiao clan. Moreover, as the prince of the Ouyang clan, he was naturally very clear about the outstanding talents of the younger generation in the three great clans. After so many years, he had never heard of Xiao Yan in the Xiao clan. "Brother Xiao, there is no need to worry. Let's go." Ouyang Miao courteously smiled. He made an inviting gesture toward Xiao Yan. Only then did the latter nod his head slightly. His gaze exchanged glances with Bai Hua and Xiao Yan behind him. Immediately, the two of them flew side by side to the east. Chapter 1360. Half a day later, a huge city located at the end of the road gradually appeared in the vision of Xiao Yan and the others. High up in the sky, Xiao Yan and the others flew forward as they looked at the towering city wall in the distance. A look of amazement flashed in their eyes. St. Gold's city was one of the largest cities in the central region. At the same time, it was also the city directly under the Ouyang clan, one of the three great clans of the central region. Due to these reasons, it was more prosperous than any other city. This holy gold city was indeed like its name. Its vast size did not cause the word holy to lose its luster. The ancient city wall that stretched to the end might be covered in moss, but one could still sense a deep and heavy aura that belonged to the ancient times. Some scars that were left on it added a legendary color to this enormous city. This was especially so when Xiao Yan's group saw a vast, enormous sword standing on an enormous open ground outside of the city before they even got close. A portion of the sword's body was inserted into the ground, revealing the upper half of the sword's body and its hilt. Only when they got closer did everyone gradually see that the sword's body had three large words that were engraved with a majestic sword aura. St. Gold City. We're here. Ouyang Miao laughed softly. He looked at the majestic sword that stood outside of the city. A respectful expression involuntarily surfaced in his eyes. This was especially the case when he noticed the solemn expression on the faces of Xiao Yan's group by the side. His heart involuntarily rejoiced. Eyeing the huge sword in front of him, Xiao Yan felt aghast in his heart. This was especially the case when he noticed the three big words that were filled with vigor on it. The seriousness on his face became even deeper. This sword, it's actually real, although part of the giant sword was inserted into the ground, only the part that was exposed was still sharp. The dense luster made people feel a sense of fear. Coupled with the crisscrossing sword aura on it, its power was even more powerful. It was hard to imagine that if it was a person with a weak will, they would not even be able to enter the city gate of St. Gold City. This sword came from the Heavenly Cloud Villa, so it's naturally real. Moreover, its outer shape is completely based on the orchid sword. Furthermore, the three words on it were personally written by the Sword Saint. Its purpose is to suppress some people with evil intentions. Ouyang Miao raised his chin and smiled. Hearing this, the expressions on the faces of Xiao Yan and the others suddenly changed. Looking at the giant sword in front of them, they could not help but reveal a hint of surprise. Orchid sword. Orchid sword saint. Ouyang Yu? When the orchid sword was mentioned, Xiao Yan immediately thought of the Heavenly Cloud Saint weapon list that he saw in the Heavenly Cloud Villa. The orchid sword was ranked 7th on the list. Its owner was Ouyang Yu, who was known as the Orchid Sword Saint in the outside world. If he remembered correctly, Luo Jin had once said that Ouyang Yu was publicly acknowledged as the strongest person in the Ouyang family. He did not expect to see the sword aura left behind by that expert when he first arrived in St. Gold City. Oh. It seems that Brother Xiao knows quite a bit about the central region. Seeing that Xiao Yan could actually name Ouyang Yu, Ouyang Miao could not help but be slightly surprised. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. I stayed in the Heavenly Cloud Villa for a period of time, so I have heard of this senior's name. Now that I see the sword aura on it, it is indeed extraordinary. With his extraordinary eyesight, Xiao Yan could naturally see that the sword mark on the huge sword had obviously existed for many years. However, even if it had been many years, the sword aura on it was still overbearing. This point was really shocking. When Ouyang Miao heard Xiao Yan's words, a surprised expression immediately appeared on his face. At the same time, he seemed to have thought of something in his heart and said in surprise. Brother Xiao was in the Heavenly Cloud Villa before? In that case, could it be that the battle in the Heavenly Cloud Villa half a year ago was because of you? Ouyang Miao had naturally heard of the astonishing battle that took place in the Heavenly Cloud Villa. It was said that it was originally a battle between the Daoist sect and the Heavenly Cloud Villa. However, in the end, the Cloud Celestial sect and the Ghost Slaughter sect were also involved. At the root of it, it was a group of people who came from the border of the continent and entered the Heavenly Cloud Villa to seek protection. At this moment, when Xiao Yan mentioned it, Ouyang Miao immediately thought of that matter. In this regard, Xiao Yan did not hide anything. This matter was too important to hide even if he wanted to. Since he had already made it clear, there was naturally no need to evade. With a few simple words, Xiao Yan covered up the battle. However, when he retracted his gaze, Ouyang Miao clearly saw the cold killing intent that flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes. It was obvious that something big must have happened in the battle in the Heavenly Cloud Villa. Since Xiao Yan did not want to talk about it, Ouyang Miao naturally did not ask. Afterwards, Ouyang Miao briefly explained a few things about the huge sword. Xiao Yan and the others learned that this huge sword was forged by Sword Saint Yulan after she fought against 3 Source Venerables. On one hand, it was to intimidate the crowd. On the other hand, it was naturally to use Sword Saint Yulan's name to strengthen the Ouyang clan. This was something that they had achieved. The current Ouyang clan had an unshakable position in the central region. Although the 3 great clans of the central region were equally famous, the Ouyang clan's foundation was undoubtedly the strongest amongst the 3. Unlike the other 2 clans that only protected their bloodline, the Ouyang clan wantonly recruited outsiders to strengthen their foundation. There was no lack of people with different surnames in the clan. In the central region, there were many small clans that were subordinate forces to the Ouyang clan. The Gu clan was one of them. Under such expansion, there was no doubt that the Ouyang clan's strength was enormous. What was even more surprising was that, despite such a strong expansion, there had never been any internal strife within the Ouyang clan. If the Ouyang clan's reputation outside was due to Sword Saint Yulan Ouyangyu, then the Ouyang clan's internal stability was due to the Ouyang clan's leader. The people of the Gu clan left by themselves at the city gate. Xiao Yan and the other 2 followed Ouyang Miao and temporarily rested in one of the Ouyang clan's courtyards in the city. Their original plan was to use St. Gold City's transportation array to leave this place, but Ouyang Miao had kindly invited them, so they couldn't refuse. Moreover, Lian had been full of resentment for the past month. In order to let her have a good rest, the 3 of them had stayed. Of course, Xiao Yan also understood that Ouyang Miao's goal was to fight with him again. However, on the second day. Chapter 1361. The next day. When the first rays of the morning sun sprinkled down from the sky, St. Gold City, which had been silent for an entire night, was once again bustling with noise and excitement. Outside St. Gold City, countless people swarmed towards the city like ants. At the center of the city was a huge plaza, where 3 giant stone platforms had been built. Mysterious runes were carved into the stone platforms, forming 3 large-scale teleportation arrays. A Grade 7 large-scale teleportation array was vastly superior to the commonly seen Grade 5 teleportation arrays in terms of both number of people and distance. In the entire central region, only the subordinate cities of the central region's major factions or some provincial cities possessed Grade 7 teleportation arrays. The number of cities that possessed 3 Grade 7 teleportation arrays could be counted on one's fingers. Even among the 3 great clans, only the Ouyang clan possessed one. Moreover, the Ouyang clan had placed the teleportation array in one of their subordinate cities. Although the Ouyang clan's actions were extravagant, in the eyes of several factions, it was undoubtedly an arrogant or foolish act. After all, although placing a teleportation array in one subordinate city would bring about considerable economic benefits, it would also bring about a potential crisis. In the event of an enemy attack, the teleportation array would give the enemy the best method to deal with it, making it the easiest choice whether to advance or retreat. Fortunately, given the Ouyang clan's powerful foundation, such a thing was unlikely to happen. As the teleportation arrays were activated one after another, more and more experts from various factions gathered in the city. Naturally, their strength could not be underestimated. Compared to the Origin Kings, who could dominate an area in the southern region, they were merely ordinary passers-by in Golden Saint City. There were also quite a number of Origin sect experts, and even Origin Venerate level experts. When the morning sun poured into his room, Xiao Yan, who was seated on his bed, slowly opened his eyes. After a night of recuperation, the exhaustion from a month of traveling had been swept away, and he was in peak condition. The Genesis chi in his body flowed like a torrent, and a feeling of abundant power filled his limbs and bones. It was as if his body would transform into a human-shaped machine with the slightest movement, destroying everything in front of him. Phew! A fire glow suddenly flashed across Xiao Yan's calm, dark black eyes. He seemed to have already predicted what would happen today. A fighting intent leaped within his heart. After so many years, he wondered just what level the current Ouyang Miao had reached. Jumping down from the bed, Xiao Yan slowly walked out of the room, only to see Bai Hua and Lian already waiting in the courtyard. "Are you leaving or staying?" The moment Xiao Yan appeared, Bai Hua could feel the abundant Genesis chi circulating in his body. Coupled with Ouyang Miao's attitude yesterday, she naturally knew what would happen today. Of course. But before that, let's greet the owner first. Xiao Yan pursed his lips and smiled. There was some confidence in his eyes. Upon seeing this, Bai Hua smiled and nodded. She gently patted Lian, who was lying lazily on the stone table, and lifted her up. After which, the three of them walked out of the manor. After leaving the manor, the trio saw Ouyang walking straight towards them. From the looks of it, he had also just arrived. "Hee, are the three of you leaving?" Ouyang laughed heartily as he approached. Xiao Yan observed the aura in Ouyang body and found that he was also at his peak. Although the two did not speak, they already understood each other's intentions. "We are indeed leaving, but it seems that Brother Ouyang hopes that I will stay. In my opinion, Brother Xiao may not be in a hurry to leave." The two of them looked at each other, and the look in their eyes became sharper and sharper. Even the space between them started to distort slightly. This scene also surprised the two guards in front of the courtyard. In front of the manor, Xiao Yan turned his head to glance at Bai Hua and nodded. The latter immediately understood and retreated a certain distance with Lian. Only then did Xiao Yan's gaze return to Ouyang. Flames surged in his eyes as he said in a chilling voice, "How do we fight? How do we fight? Direct enough. Since that's the case, I won't hold you back. Same old rules, we'll decide the victor in 100 rounds." As his laughter faded, Ouyang stomped his foot on the ground and retreated a certain distance. As the battle intent on their faces intensified, the vigorous Genesis chi in their bodies began to rapidly circulate. The two of them might not have to use their full strength, but it was destined to be a hardy battle. However, just as the atmosphere between the two grew increasingly tense, a faint chuckle suddenly interrupted the atmosphere. "Hee, Brother Ouyang, it's been a while since we last met. Why are you suddenly in the mood to fight? Even if you want to fight, I should be your opponent. How can a mere 2-star origin sect be worthy of fighting you?" The moment the chuckle was heard, the Xiao Yan duo immediately turned their gazes towards the source of the laughter. Xiao Yan frowned slightly, not very interested in Ouyang words. At this moment, a look of disgust appeared on Ouyang face, but it only lasted for an instant before he immediately withdrew it. The Genesis chi that had leaked out from his body was also completely withdrawn. The four of them expressionlessly looked towards one side of the street. Xiao Yan looked over and saw a young man in white robes smiling warmly at Ouyang. Although the young man's face was warm, his smile gave off a feminine aura no matter how one looked at it. Behind the young man in white stood 3 elders. As Xiao Yan's gaze swept across the trio, the expression in his eyes involuntarily widened a little. The auras of the 2 elders at the back were not any weaker than First Elder Luo Xiong of the Heavenly Cloud Villa. They were clearly 2 8-star origin sect experts. As for the elder standing at the front, when his gaze landed on the latter, Xiao Yan's heart violently shuddered. Origin Sovereign. This old man's appearance was scattered. Both of his hands were inserted into his sleeves. At a glance, he appeared no different from an ordinary old man. However, with his powerful spiritual perception, Xiao Yan was able to sense that this old man was definitely an expert whose cultivation had reached the Yuan Zun class. The appearance of the young man in white instantly broke the atmosphere. The two guards at the entrance wore rather unhappy expressions when they saw the group of four. It was obvious that the young man in white did not have much of an impression in their eyes. By Ruoxuan, they are my guests. I hope that you can speak with some respect. Yangming's tone was a little heavy as he curled his lips. As he spoke, Yangming walked over to Xiao Yan's side and reminded him in a low voice, "Be careful of this guy. Be careful of this guy. He's from the Bai clan. He's not a good person." The moment Yangming said this, Xiao Yan immediately raised his eyebrows and a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. The one who could make Yangming warn him in such a manner was naturally the Bai clan, which was also one of the three great clans. Xiao Yan's eyes were surprised as he looked at this group of people in front of him. His heart was filled with surprise. His aim for coming to the middle region was to head to the Xiao clan. It was unexpected that he had already met the members of these two large clans before he had even met the members of the Xiao clan. Moreover, according to what Luo Ao had said back then, the mysterious Jade ruler seemed to be in the Bai clan. It was also at this moment that a strange movement suddenly came from Xiao Yan's storage ring. Chapter 1362. Hehe, since you are Brother Ouyang's friend, I will take back my words. It is not that you are unworthy, but, you don't have the strength. By Ruoxuan, this is my Saint Gold City. Just as Bai Ruoxuan finished speaking, Ouyang Miao's deep voice suddenly sounded. The former smiled mockingly at Xiao Yan, then turned to face Ouyang Miao and said with a warm smile, "Brother Ouyang, don't be angry. Brother Ouyang, please don't be angry. I'm here to see my master. As long as you tell me where my master is, I'll leave right away." As Bai Ruoxuan said this, his eyes could not help but shake slightly. One of his hands slowly touched the storage ring, and the emotions in his heart fluctuated slightly. "Master? My second uncle never promised to take you as a disciple. I advise you to stop thinking about it." Hearing this, Ouyang Miao's face darkened as he said in a low voice. Slowly turning the storage ring on his finger, Bai Ruoxuan smiled as if he did not care. Soon after, he laughed softly. "Brother Ouyang, why do you say this? Although my master has no plans to take me as a disciple for the time being, I have already recognized this master. As the saying goes, where sincerity reaches, metal and stone will split. I believe that there will be such a day sooner or later. But at least it is not today. My second uncle is in seclusion recently. Please go back." Yang Miao turned his head to look at Xiao Yan by the side after saying those words. At this moment, the latter's hand was tightly holding the storage ring in his hand. His expression was somewhat unnatural as he looked at Bai Ruoxuan on the opposite side. He only felt that something within the storage ring appeared to be unable to control itself and wanted to charge out. Xiao Yan only forced a smile when he saw Yang Miao looking at him at this moment. Under Yang Miao's signal, the two of them and Bai Hua by the side walked to the other side of the street. Wait a moment. Just at this moment, Bai Ruoxuan's voice sounded again. Yang Miao's expression was impatient as he turned around and looked at the former. He frowned and said in a low voice, "What else do you want to do? I am not willing. Are you going to force your way in?" Brother Ouyang, you've misunderstood. I am not trying to force my way in. I merely want your friend to see something." Bai Ruoxuan laughed softly. Immediately, his hand, which was placed on his storage ring, slowly opened. While a thought passed through his mind, his right hand slowly clenched tightly at the empty space beside him. Almost at the same time, an enormous ruler, which was completely white like jade, slowly appeared in his right hand. From its appearance, it was actually exactly the same as the heavy Xian ruler. "This is mysterious jade ruler." Yang Miao frowned tightly. He seemed to have some other impression of the enormous ruler in Bai Ruoxuan's hand. However, he was unable to recall it at this moment. At this moment, Xiao Yan, who was beside him, was doing his best to control the storage ring in his hand. More accurately, he was controlling the heavy Xian ruler, which was trembling intensely within the storage ring at this moment. Ever since Bai Ruoxuan and the rest had arrived, Xiao Yan had clearly sensed that the heavy Xian ruler within the storage ring was trembling uncontrollably. That state was as though it was being pulled by something. Fortunately, with the isolation of the storage ring, Xiao Yan was able to barely suppress it. However, now that Bai Ruoxuan had taken out the mysterious jade ruler from his storage ring, the heavy Xian ruler within Xiao Yan's storage ring was naturally unable to be controlled. Ah, this friend, since you have already been discovered, why do you need to purposely hide it? In this world, the only thing that can cause my mysterious jade ruler to act strangely is that thing. Bai Ruoxuan's face was filled with a cold smile as he stared at Xiao Yan opposite him. There was a glint in his eyes. If he was unable to determine where the strangeness of the mysterious jade ruler originated from earlier, at this moment, he was certain that this feeling originated from Xiao Yan in front of him. Xiao Yan's heart was also filled with solemnity in this regard. He had actually met someone from the Bai clan in St. Gold City. Moreover, he did not expect that the other party was actually carrying the mysterious jade ruler. Additionally, there were a few people behind Bai Ruoxuan. Once his heavy Xian ruler was exposed in front of them, it was likely that the situation would become extremely disadvantageous for him. Humph, are you still going to stubbornly resist? Since you're not willing, let me give you a hand. As an icy chuckle sounded, Bai Ruoxuan's foot stomped on the ground. Genesis Qi gushed out from under his feet as he waved the white mysterious jade ruler in one hand. His figure shot towards Xiao Yan like a bolt of lightning, arriving in front of the latter in the blink of an eye. His face was filled with disdain as his ruler swung towards Xiao Yan's head. Beside Xiao Yan, Bai Hua and Ouyang Miao were just about to intervene when they were stopped by the two 8-star origin sect experts. They could only watch helplessly as the giant ruler in Bai Ruoxuan's hand smashed downwards. The biting cold wind pressure smashed onto Xiao Yan's face from all directions. However, his expression became calm instead. His hand, which was holding the storage ring, also slowly relaxed. In the next second, clang! As the deafening sound of metal clashing rang out, a buzzing sound immediately reverberated across the streets. The expressions of the two guards in front of the courtyard changed drastically as an invisible wave of energy violently unfurled between Xiao Yan and Bai Ruoxuan like a hurricane. At this moment, when everyone raised their eyes and looked over, they saw that Xiao Yan was tightly holding an enormous, dark black ruler with one hand. With a tight frown, he had temporarily blocked the ruler that Bai Ruoxuan had thrown over. Anyone present who was observant would be able to discover that the enormous rulers in the hands of these two people were basically the same with the exception of the black and white color. Boom! Next, the two individuals each slammed their palms into the ruler in their hands. As the two forces collided once again, both figures were pushed back several steps. Only then did they swing their rulers at each other. Humph, it is indeed the heavy mysterious ruler. Bai Ruoxuan coldly snorted, but there was a victorious smile on his face. Xiao Yan was non-committal. His hand, which was holding the heavy Xian ruler, trembled gently. Immediately, bang sounded and a fierce flame lingered over the ruler's body. Immediately, the temperature of the area where everyone was located suddenly rose by quite a lot. Even the ground under their feet was grilled by this high temperature until it cracked. It's actually a heavenly flame. At this instant, the old man not far behind Bai Ruoxuan finally raised his head. His old face carried a slightly surprised expression as he looked at Xiao Yan. His old eyes slowly narrowed, and only then did he speak. Young man, you are actually able to obtain the recognition of a heavenly flame. That is truly commendable. This old man will not interfere in this matter. As long as you hand over the heavy mysterious ruler in your hand, you can leave safely. Xiao Yan's gaze swept over the old man's body. As the seriousness in his eyes gradually increased, he withdrew his hand behind his back. His eyes stared intently at the old man as he slowly opened his mouth. As he spoke, a white jade array disc fell into his hand. What if I refuse? Chapter 1363. The old man's eyes slowly narrowed as he stared at Xiao Yan. He slowly lifted a hand, Genesis Chi gathering at his fingertips as he slowly said. If you're unwilling, then, Elder Rong, didn't you just say that you won't interfere? I'm afraid that it won't be good for you to do so. Right at that moment, Bai Ruoxuan looked to the old man with a face full of smiles. Although he was trying to dissuade the old man, there was a bit of fierceness in his eyes. Seeing that, the old man immediately understood what was going on. Don't worry, I've always kept my word. Moreover, I won't do things like bullying the weak. At most, I'll keep this little friend here for now. You can naturally leave when you've thought things through. In the face of such threatening words, the expression on Xiao Yan's face involuntarily became gloomy. On the other side, the impatience on Yang Miao's face became even greater when he heard these words. Bai Rong, you dare to block my guest. Yang Miao was originally a proud and aloof person. Moreover, Xiao Yan was his guest and his opponent. Yet, this old man in front of him had so casually decided whether Xiao Yan should stay or leave. How could he endure this? There's no need to be angry. I'm just saying. As for what to do, it will naturally depend on this mister's intentions. Bai Rong softly chuckled when he heard this. He turned towards Xiao Yan, the threatening look in his eyes growing even more intense. Xiao Yan was noncommittal. His hand, which was holding the heavy Xian ruler, tightened slightly. A thought passed through his mind and the flame that covered it immediately rose violently. The dense feeling deep within his pair of dark black eyes gradually became denser. He had never been threatened by anyone in his entire life. These words of this old man not only did not bring him any pressure, but instead only provoked his fury. Xiao Yan's heart was filled with anger. By the side, Bai Ruoxuan's gaze slowly swept across Xiao Yan and the rest, pausing on Yang Miao for a moment. After a brief moment of thought, he smiled in a feminine manner and said. We're all family. There's no need to ruin our relationship over such a small matter, you're not polite at all. When did my Ouyang clan become a family with your Bai clan? My second uncle is not your master, and St. Gold City is not a place where you can act as you please. With a cold snort, Yang Miao's expression darkened as a boundless energy aura instantly spread from his body. At the same time, water vapor rapidly condensed in the air around him, transforming into several water screens in the blink of an eye that protected Yang Miao. Although the 8-star source sect expert in front of Yang Miao was not afraid, he could not help but frown in the face of such an attitude from Yang Miao. In the entire middle region, Yang Miao could be considered an elite amongst the younger generation. Even his Bai clan's Bai Ruoxuan was slightly inferior to the former. Given this fellow's strength, even they had no choice but to treat him with caution. Brother Yang Miao, there's no need to be angry. The 3 great clans are of the same breadth and branch. Moreover, I'm also teacher's disciple. Let's just consider it my wishful thinking. Today's matter has nothing to do with the relationship between our clans. However, this friend, the heavy Xian Buster Sword and my mysterious Jade Buster Sword are originally one. I hope that you can part with it on account of brother Yang Miao and give it to me. Bai Ruoxuan narrowed his eyes. Subsequently, he turned his gaze towards Xiao Yan and gave the latter a warm smile. Xiao Yan stared at Bai Ruoxuan in silence for a long time. A moment later, he suddenly grinned and said. Since the 3 great clans are of the same breadth and branch, and the Bai clan and Ouyang clan have such a relationship, why don't you give me the mysterious Jade Buster Sword on account of brother Yang Miao? Brat, how dare you? How can you casually touch something that belongs to the heir of my Bai clan? The other old man from the 8-star source sect by the side had a sunken expression. He stepped forward and a powerful aura immediately rushed toward Xiao Yan. Buzz! Xiao Yan's expression changed slightly as the aura surged towards him. He frowned as he let out a low shout in his heart. The Force Elephant skill was instantly unleashed, and with the strength of his powerful physical body, he was able to block the Elder's aura. Yangmiao became increasingly furious when he saw this. Huh! The Elder could not help but be surprised when he saw this scene. At the same time, Bai Ruoxuan's expression darkened. He looked at Yangmiao, who had an extremely ugly expression, and hesitated for a long time. Only then did he look at Xiao Yan again and said in a deep voice. Since neither you nor I are willing to give it up, why don't we use the simplest method to solve this problem? Brat, if you have the guts, fight with me. If I win, you will give me the heavy Xian Buster sword. What if you lose? Xiao Yan lifted his eyelids and stared at Bai Ruoxuan as he asked indifferently. Bai Ruoxuan was stunned when he heard this. He could not help but be surprised by Xiao Yan's decisiveness. Soon after, he could not help but laugh. When the two of them had exchanged blows earlier, they had clearly seen through each other's cultivation. Bai Ruoxuan was currently an initial 4-star source sect, and his cultivation was only slightly weaker than Yangmiao's. On the other hand, Xiao Yan was only a 2-star source sect. Even the slightest difference between origin sect experts was enough to determine the outcome of a battle, let alone the fact that there was a 2-star gap between him and Xiao Yan. Bai Ruoxuan truly could not imagine how he would lose with such a huge gap. Ha ha ha, although it is a little laughable, I cannot help but admire your courage. You actually dare to fantasize about the outcome at such a time. Since you want it, I will agree. If you defeat me, I, Bai Ruoxuan, will hand over the mysterious Jade Buster sword with both hands. Crown Prince, you can't, Elder Rong, you might be a little too careful. Could it be that you're worried that I can't deal with such trash? Before Bai Rong could finish speaking, Bai Ruoxuan's indifferent laughter immediately interrupted him. Although Bai Rong was slightly worried, he still took a deep breath in the end. He slowly nodded and did not say anything else. Afterwards, Bai Ruoxuan glanced at the other two 8-star source sect experts. The two of them exchanged glances before retreating, leaving the space for Xiao Yan and Bai Ruoxuan. Outside the arena, Yangmiao and Bai Hua had also retreated. The three of them glanced at Xiao Yan, then looked at Bai Ruoxuan's confident appearance. They could not help but exchange glances as sneers flashed across the depths of their eyes. There was naturally no need to mention Xiao Yan's strength. During the Origin Emperor's time, he had severely injured a 4-star source sect expert, Tang Long. Now that he had stepped into the Origin sect realm, his battle prowess was naturally many times stronger than before. Yangmiao knew that Xiao Yan's battle prowess far exceeded his cultivation, so he naturally would not treat the latter as an ordinary person. However, Bai Ruoxuan was currently acting so arrogantly. Once the two of them fought, Yangmiao would likely have to pay quite a price. Chapter 1364. As the crowd dispersed, the home ground was naturally handed over to Xiao Yan and Bai Ruoxuan, who were currently staring at each other. The two individuals were currently wielding giant rulers, one black and one white, as if they were born to oppose each other. Bai Ruoxuan was a little taken aback when he saw that Xiao Yan was not the slightest bit afraid, his eyes filled with surprise at the former's mental fortitude. However, due to his powerful cultivation, he did not feel the slightest bit of worry. He wanted to let the black-robed, black ruler wielding Xiao Yan understand that in the face of sufficient strength, pure willpower would not be able to create any miracles. Kid, I admire your temperament, but if you really dare to fight me, you will only be humiliating yourself in the end. As the heir of the Bai clan, one of the 3 great clans of the central region, Bai Ruoxuan had his own pride. Amongst the younger generation of the central region, the number of individuals who could match him could be counted on one's fingers. Hence, there was naturally no fear in his heart when facing an unknown brat. Xiao Yan paid no attention to Bai Ruoxuan's mocking. A fierce light pulsed in his eyes as the flames on the giant ruler in his hand grew increasingly stronger. With a thought, the Genesis chi in his body converged into the giant ruler in his hand. Under the flames, the grooves on the giant ruler were filled with scarlet-red light. As they flowed, they became as hot as boiling lava. Bai Ruoxuan sneered when he saw Xiao Yan's reaction. His arm jerked, causing the white ruler in his hand to tremble. Boundless golden Genesis chi flowed on it, causing the surrounding space to distort and ripple. Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being merciless. With a cold shout, Bai Ruoxuan's foot slammed into the ground as his body shot forward like a cannonball. Golden light swirled around the giant white ruler in his hand, drawing a dazzling arc of light in the air. In the blink of an eye, his figure had already appeared in front of Xiao Yan, less than a foot away from the ladder. So noisy, Xiao Yan's gaze was indifferent as he eyed Bai Ruoxuan's figure, which had already come close to him. He glanced at the intense wind that the Xian jade ruler carried and shook his head at a steady pace. He allowed the enormous ruler to sweep over while his body merely took half a step to the right. Soon after, a fierce attack suddenly swept past. However, the shocking thing was that the enormous ruler, which was surrounded by a golden glow, actually whizzed past Xiao Yan's sleeves. Other than carrying a hurricane, it did not even touch Xiao Yan's sleeves from the beginning until the end. Such speed! The expression on Ouyang Miao's face instantly changed when he saw this scene, and he could not help but cry out in surprise. Even the two 8-star source sects and Bai Rong could not help but frown. Although Xiao Yan's movement seemed slow, compared to Bai Ruoxuan's ferocious attack, it was undoubtedly several times faster. Even a ghost would not believe that it was a coincidence that he was able to dodge Bai Ruoxuan's attack so accurately at such a short distance. At this moment, Bai Ruoxuan also revealed a look of surprise when he saw Xiao Yan dodge his attack so easily. His heart immediately sank, and at almost the same time that he swept past Xiao Yan's figure, he suddenly waved the mysterious jade ruler in his hand. The giant ruler's tip suddenly turned, and Bai Ruoxuan also turned his body in the air, swinging the ruler horizontally towards Xiao Yan once again. Xiao Yan's expression turned stern when he heard the sound of wind behind him. His body did not move at all, and without even turning his head, he swung the heavy dark ruler in his hand backwards. Soon after, the two giant rulers heavily collided. This is the first ruler. At the same time that the giant ruler was swung backwards, Xiao Yan's indifferent voice was transmitted into Bai Ruoxuan's ears. However, before the latter could hear anything, the two giant rulers had already collided. Clang! When the two collided, an ear-shaking, enormous sound of metal colliding immediately sounded. A circular invisible air wave also swept apart. The golden-colored flowing light on the Xian jade ruler also unleashed a powerful energy ripple at this moment, which violently struck the heavy Xian ruler in Xiao Yan's hand. Xiao Yan's expression did not change even a little in the face of such a powerful energy attack. A thought passed through his heart and the enormous ruler that was wrapped by the flame immediately trembled. Soon after, a startling ruler glow suddenly charged up from the heavy Xian ruler and collided with the energy on the Xian jade ruler. Soon after, it forcefully exploded. Bang! At the same time that the explosion rang out, a storm swept out. Xiao Yan's figure did not move at all. When he looked at Bai Ruoxuan again, he did not retreat. Instead, he advanced. As the chill in his eyes surged, he directly charged into the center of the storm. A loud roar was emitted from his mouth, and golden light suddenly appeared on the giant ruler. In the blink of an eye, it condensed into a giant golden dragon. With a low roar, it explosively shot towards Xiao Yan. It was only at this moment that Xiao Yan slowly turned around. His gaze was calm as he looked at the giant white ruler that was furiously smashing down. He did not have the slightest intention of dodging. The giant ruler, which was covered in flames, was slanted towards the ground. As the flames rose, he suddenly waved the giant ruler, and a majestic ruler light also rushed out. The second ruler. The heavy ruler carried a ruler light as it ruthlessly streaked across the empty space. After which, it violently collided with the giant golden dragon, causing sparks to fly in all directions. The two collided and the two human figures were shaken until they took a couple of steps back. Bai Ruoxuan's expression changed slightly. He did not expect that Xiao Yan in front of him was actually able to unleash such a powerful energy. Even he was unable to obtain victory in one strike. Brat, I allowed you to luckily dodge my previous attack. Consider it my carelessness this time, but let's see how you will withstand my next attack. Bai Ruoxuan's body moved with a furious laugh. An afterimage remained where he was, and when he reappeared, he was already a short distance in front of Xiao Yan. Both of his hands tightly gripped the ruler's hilt as the Genesis Qi within his body continuously poured into it, causing waves of golden light to erupt from it like a small sun. Light of the sun. In the short span of a few breaths, the originally white ruler was already filled with a sacred golden light. The dazzling light illuminated the street, making it difficult to distinguish between heaven and earth. Wave after wave of powerful and terrifying energy spread from within. Is this an intent class Do skill? Seeing this, Xiao Yan finally slowly narrowed his eyes. The expression in his eyes became increasingly sharp. His hand, which was holding the heavy Xian ruler, also tightened its grip. After which, the instant he raised his head, the enormous ruler in his hand also hacked down with a force from above. 3 feet. Ruler light shot out, but Xiao Yan did not pause. Instead, he continued to swing downwards, only stopping after the 9th swing. At almost the same time, Bai Rong's expression involuntarily changed. He took a step forward as the Genesis Qi in his body began to circulate. Chapter 1365. Light of the Sun. A dazzling light shone over this entire world. A frightening energy ripple was emitted from within the golden light. The Xian jade ruler in Bai Ruoxuan's hand was violently hacked down at the same time Xiao Yan swung the 7 feet of the ruler. A golden-colored dazzling glow shot out from the enormous ruler. It soared with the wind, and in the blink of an eye, it transformed into a 1,000-foot-long startling glow. It hacked down toward Xiao Yan with a momentum that seemed to split the sky. At the same time, the 7 ruler glows that had been shot out from the heavy Xian ruler merged into one. The flame soared, and it became just like an incomparable sail that stood between the sky and the ground. It abruptly met the golden-colored glow that was shooting over from the bottom. In the next instant, boundless auras erupted like a volcano from the point of collision, blotting out the sky and covering the land. Cracking noises rang out as countless cracks spread across the surrounding ground and buildings, before they were completely destroyed with a loud bang. The invisible space cracked and formed numerous narrow, dark black crack lines under the collision of these two frightening energies. A monstrous energy wave spread over the sky. Although Xiao Yan was only 7 feet tall, the might of this 7 feet was far greater than in the past. Now that the 7-layered sky-breaking ruler had transformed into 9 feet, Xiao Yan was confident that he could completely block Bai Ruoxuan's attack even if he did not use his full strength. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion abruptly rang out at this moment. The battle between the two was completely destroyed at this moment, while the ground below was blasted into countless fragments that shot in all directions. Terrifying ripples from a punch swiftly spread at this moment, causing even Ouyang Miao and the rest, as well as the 2 elders from the 8-star origin sect, to involuntarily take a dozen steps back. They hurriedly circulated the Genesis Qi in their bodies, sealing off the area where the two had been. On the other side, Bai Rong's sinister eyes stared intently at the unmoving Xiao Yan. Killing intent surged in the depths of his eyes as the Genesis Qi in his body stealthily flowed to his palm. Swish! Within the battle circle, the energy storm had yet to completely dissipate. Just as everyone was feeling anxious, a violent sound of rushing wind suddenly rang out from within. Almost at the same time, Bai Rong's body, who was outside the battle circle, also trembled. Only a gradually blurred afterimage was left on his original spot. However, his body had already appeared beside by Wuxia. Just as he was about to raise his hand and throw a palm forward, his expression suddenly changed drastically. At the same time, his body turned around and violently threw a palm towards the empty space on the other side. Boom! Two skinny palms came into contact with each other in the invisible empty space. Energy ripples spread out like a hurricane. At the same time, the energy ripples in the surroundings were completely swept away. At the same time, the low and deep sound of another fist landing on the body was also transmitted into Bai Rong's ears. After which, everyone present clearly saw a white figure fly out from the battle circle like a kite with a broken string. After which, it violently landed on the ground. It rubbed against the ground for dozens of meters before it slowly stabilized. If one looked again, this person was undoubtedly Bai Wuxia. At this moment, 3 human figures were standing in each direction in the empty space. Xiao Yan stood in the middle while 2 old men stood opposite each other. Their gazes were staring at Xiao Yan alone in the middle of the battleground. This was especially the case for Bai Rong at this moment. The expression on his old face was gloomy. He did not expect that there would actually be someone who would intervene on Xiao Yan's behalf. Moreover, from the looks of the other party's aura earlier, it was likely that the other party's cultivation was not inferior to his. Damn it, Bai Rong turned his head to look at Bai Wuxia, who was in the middle of the ruins and had almost fainted. The expression on Bai Rong's face was extremely ugly. Then, he suddenly turned his head to look at Xiao Yan and laughed angrily. I never thought that you would have a helper. Hearing those words, Xiao Yan could not help but raise his eyebrows. He turned his head to look at the other side. At this moment, an old man wearing a purple robe with a face full of wrinkles was similarly standing in the air. However, looking at his expression that was filled with killing intent, Xiao Yan did not think that this fellow would be his helper. Humph, helper? If you had not intervened to stop me, this brat would have already died under this venerable self's palm. Soon after, the old man in purple robes let out a hoarse and dark cold snort. Bai Rong's expression could not help but be slightly startled when he heard these words. From the other party's tone, it seemed that he had also come to kill Xiao Yan. Things had happened so suddenly that he had misunderstood the other party's intentions. Immediately, he heaved a long sigh of relief in his heart. His gaze bypassed Xiao Yan and stared at the purple-robed elder. He raised his hand and cupped his fist together as he faintly smiled. So it was a misunderstanding. This old man has been overthinking things. In that case, please do as you wish. Bai Rong swiftly descended to Bai Wuxia's side after uttering those words. The 2 8-star source zone had already helped Bai Wuxia consume medicinal pills. Although Bai Wuxia's injuries were temporarily stabilized, the killing intent in Bai Rong's eyes became even denser when he saw the deep, scarlet fist imprint on Bai Wuxia's chest. He turned his head and looked at the solemn expression of Xiao Yan in the sky. If Bai Wuxia's injuries were not too serious, it was likely that he would have personally attacked. When he looked at the empty space again, the purple-robed elder who had suddenly appeared was currently looking at Xiao Yan with a face full of killing intent. A powerful aura continuously surged from his body, appearing rather shocking. Where did you provoke such an expert? Oh, Yang Miao's body rushed forward and appeared beside Xiao Yan. He had quite a good understanding of the Bai clan, but he had never seen this purple-robed person in front of him. Naturally, he did not dare to carelessly speak. I have never seen him before. Xiao Yan frowned when he heard this and explained in a deep voice. Oh, Yang Miao frowned in surprise when he heard this. However, at this moment, the purple-robed man spoke again. His hoarse voice was like an invisible blade that spread across the world. You don't recognize this old man, but you should remember Xia Shan, right? When the 2 words Xia Shan were spoken, an extremely terrifying aura and pressure suddenly swept out from the old man's body. It instantly enveloped Xiao Yan and Yang Miao's heads. Xia Shan, Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows. Subsequently, he suddenly raised his head and cried out in surprise. "You are a member of the Sky Poison Dragon Scorpion Beast clan. This sovereign is Xia Shan's father. You killed Xia Shan in the southern region. Do you really think that no one will know? Today, this sovereign will use your blood to pay tribute to my dead son." An earth-shaking furious cry was emitted. The body of the purple-robed old man suddenly shook. His body instantly turned into a purple-colored light figure that shot explosively toward Xiao Yan in the sky in front of the solemn gazes of Yang Miao and the others. A sharp roar also shook the sky. At this moment, the white array disc that Xiao Yan was holding tightly in his hand also emitted a golden light. Immediately after, it was thrown into the air. At the same time the array was activated, numerous spiritual stones also flew out from Xiao Yan's storage ring. Chapter 1366. That purple-robed person appeared outside of the formation almost at the same time the formation above Xiao Yan's head was activated. Soon after, a palm was heavily imprinted on the golden-colored barrier in front of him. Clang! Circular golden-colored energy ripples swiftly spread from the formation barrier at the same time the trembling sound appeared. The remaining strength of the rebound also forced the purple-robed person back by over 100 feet. By the time he raised his head, the formation had already been fully unleashed, covering Xiao Yan and Yang Miao within it. A grade 7 array? The purple-robed man's brows knitted together as his expression darkened. With a flip of his hand, chilling blood-colored Genesis Chi rapidly gathered in his palm. With a vicious wave, it transformed into a stream of light that slammed into the array barrier. Ripples churned, but it remained incomparably tough. Not bad. I didn't expect you to possess such a high-grade array. But what can a mere grade 7 array do in front of me? With an icy chuckle, the purple-robed man was about to charge forward again when Yang Miao suddenly took a step forward, frowning as he respectfully said, "Elder, I am the heir of the Yang clan, Yang Miao. I don't care what grudges you have with Xiao Yan, but I hope you can stop today and treat it as giving my Yang clan some face." "Humph, I haven't been to the central region for many years. How did such an arrogant junior emerge?" The Yang family is one of the 3 great clans of the central region and has Sword Saint Yulan as their leader. I have heard of your reputation, but why should I give you any face when you're just a junior? As his voice faded, the purple-robed man's figure had already appeared in front of the array barrier. Murderous intent surged in his eyes as he slammed his palm into the array barrier. Unlike before, the purple-robed man's figure did not retreat in the slightest. As his palm landed, ripples churned on the array barrier, followed by another palm strike. The entire array gradually began to tremble under his powerful attacks. Within the array barrier, Xiao Yan stared intently at the purple-robed man's astonishing attacks as his heart turned solemn. Even if a Source Venerate expert did not use any Do skills, he could still rely on his own power to shatter a grade 7 array. Although the array barrier was strong, it would not last long under the purple-robed man's attacks. As his heart sank, Xiao Yan had no choice but to quickly circulate the Genesis Chi in his body. Flames surged in his palm, swiftly forming a flaming wheel as wisps of great Tao power gathered. In the face of a Source Venerate expert, the only thing Xiao Yan could rely on was the angry Buddha reincarnation, which was comparable to a great Tao skill. Outside, Byron could not help but reveal a sinister smile when he saw the grave expression on Xiao Yan's face. It had to be said that the fact that Xiao Yan had been able to easily defeat the 4-star Bai Ruoxuan with his 2-star origin ancestor Cultivation was partly due to Bai Ruoxuan's carelessness, but Xiao Yan's frightening battle power was also undeniable. Today's battle between Xiao Yan and Bai Ruoxuan had turned them into true enemies regardless of whether it was the mysterious Jade Ruler or the fact that Xiao Yan had heavily injured Bai Ruoxuan. If not for the purple-robed man's intervention earlier, Xiao Yan would likely have already become a dead soul under his palm. Of course, doing so would definitely incur the displeasure of the Yang clan. However, the purple-robed man's intervention had saved Bai Rong a lot of trouble. Today, this kid will die without a doubt. The smile on Bai Rong's lips widened as he watched the increasingly crumbling golden formation under the purple-robed man's fierce attacks. Clang 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 clang, a series of heavy bangs rang out as tiny cracks quietly appeared on the white jade formation disc hovering in front of Xiao Yan. From the looks of it, it would not last for long, and the angry Buddha reincarnation in his palm would likely take some time to gather. Xiao Yan had no choice but to desperately gather the Genesis Qi in his body. The angry Buddha reincarnation was his greatest trump card at this moment. By the side, Ouyang Miao's expression grew increasingly dark. When he saw that the formation was about to collapse, he shouted in a low voice. "Even if you don't give this junior face today, you should stop for the sake of my Ouyang clan. Otherwise, this matter won't end so easily in the future." He, boy, your words are a little arrogant. It is indeed the style of the Ouyang clan, but my purpose today is only to kill this boy. It has nothing to do with your Ouyang clan. If you attack, don't blame me for being merciless. Boom! At the same time that the cold cry was emitted from his mouth, a shriveled hand of the purple-robed person finally violently penetrated the formation barrier in front of him. After which, his arm shook abruptly. Soon after, the golden-colored formation barrier in front of him swiftly broke apart amidst a wave of cracking sounds. Even the white jade formation plate that was suspended in front of Xiao Yan similarly trembled intensely. Soon after, it actually broke apart in the air, transforming into a pile of powder that scattered and drifted down. Xiao Yan's expression changed drastically when the formation broke. The purple-robed man let out a sinister laugh. He twisted his right hand, his 5 fingers curling into a claw. His body immediately dashed forward, grabbing at Xiao Yan's throat. At almost the same time, Xiao Yan sighed. Ouyang Miao also moved after a brief moment of hesitation. He blocked in front of Xiao Yan while the Genesis Qi in his body gushed out without reservation. His right hand grasped the air, and an ink-colored spear appeared in his hand. As water flowed around the tip of the spear, a curtain of water adhered to the spear. Next, he thrust the spear forward with a grave expression. "Don't blame me for being stubborn." Seeing this, the purple-robed man's face darkened. With a slight twist of his wrist, the claw that was rushing forward immediately changed direction and grabbed at the long spear that was thrusting towards him. However, when the two of them were less than 10 feet apart, the space between them suddenly distorted violently. Immediately after, an incomparably terrifying light burst forth like a storm. While it easily pushed the purple-robed man back, Ouyang Miao's body and the spear in his hand were forcefully frozen in the air, unable to move at all. When this unparalleled sharpness gradually dissipated, what fell into everyone's line of sight was a long sword suspended in the void. When everyone saw the sword, the members of the Bai clan, as well as Xiao Yan's group, could not help but reveal shocked expressions. There was naturally no need to mention the Bai clan. As for Xiao Yan's group, although the sword was much smaller in size, the runes on it and the sharp aura it gave off were no different from the giant sword outside St. Gold City. It was the Serene Orchid Sword. The appearance of the Serene Orchid Sword meant that its master should be here.